With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Tonight, the top open-wheel racers for the Precision Racing League hit the virtual track once more on two ends of this great globe. Today, the iRacing drivers make their way over to Japan to the Okayama International Circuit on iRacing to see how they play things out in today's action, powered by VCO. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's action. I'm Justin Prince. Join me alongside me for tonight's broadcast is British GT announcer Andy McEwen. Hugo Wee's in the producer's seat for tonight's action as we get ready to approach the midway point of the season. We start the table of tonight's action, Andy, with the iRacing. These drivers this season have seen plenty of challenges, a lot of very difficult circuits to start the year. This time, a little bit more of a quicker lap time, but potentially a more calmer possible track.
Yeah, that's right. This is a really difficult track, I think. Really technically demanding, tight and twisty, lots of low-speed corners where it's important to manage the braking, manage the traction out of those acceleration zones as well. But there are one or two places where you can definitely launch an attack, try to make some progress through this field. Certainly expecting some close and competitive racing here tonight.
Let's take a look at the schedule in detail for tonight and in turn for the season so far, because we mentioned the potential of a bit calm, but also very hard and technical. Long Beach, very hard and very tight-knit racing. Mount Panorama Circuit. Bathurst always brings wild moments. That was seen, for example, with the point standings. Barcelona, surprisingly for some, provided some wild racing to say the very least. It's been a very wild start to the season, so when I say possibly one of the calmer tracks to start the year, that may not be an understatement.
Yeah, certainly. It's been an interesting season as far as the closeness of the racing and the race results getting closer as we go through, that winning margin getting tighter. I think that shows really that the field is getting more competitive, and that will continue, I'm sure, into Road Atlanta next week. Then the circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada, one of my personal favourite street circuits. And then I might be a little bit biased about where we're going for week 7 and 8, Silverstone and Alton Park, two of the great British tracks, before we finish things off at Road America and another really technically demanding circuit at Hungaroring, just outside Budapest.
Lots to talk about when we get to the Montreal stop, to say the very least, after some of the news articles coming from the city entering tonight. But the focus stays on tonight and in turn the championship fights. Here's a look at the iRacing standings. Andrew Moran, with one victory on the season, slipped back towards the edges of the top 10. Still holds on to the points lead, though, by 14 points over Kevin Santana. Takeshi Kita is one of two drivers in the top 5, along with Mark Stevenson, however, to have DNFs from that race in Bathurst. That means both those drivers, Andy, have used their drops already, and with how tight things are going and with already 4 of the top 10 drivers in the standings using the DNF, you can't afford to make mistakes if you're in this top 10 now.
Yeah, it really has been a bit hero or zero for Takeshi Kita so far. We've seen that when he finishes the races, he's definitely got the potential to win them, and he's going to have to continue doing that through the season, but perhaps with a little bit more caution now. He's used his one get-out-of-jail-free card and cannot afford another bad race, so the pressure certainly on for him, whereas the likes of Moran and Santana, they know they've got that in their back pocket should they need it.
Keep in mind, Kita, the first of 2 drivers, in fact, this season to get into victory lane, the only with 2 victories out of 3. YS Motorsports Black, meanwhile, leads the team standings entering today, followed by Screwball Racing, YS Motorsports Gold, Blown Trendy Racing, and Andres Atomic. That is the team Kita represents as part of the series. A few other teams starting to try and find their footing again, though. Karts that go yay, their karts didn't really go yay in a lot of cases last time. Well, the Evolve Sim Sports Academy, with some of their drivers moving from F3 down to the series this campaign, Andy, some expectations were carried in. So far, not as great. Only 1 top 5 for them.
Yeah, and that's always disappointing, but it's important that a team doesn't sort of let their head dip when that happens. It's a long season. We've still got plenty of races to go, 7 more races left this season, and if they really work together, I'm sure they can still score some good points. This will change very quickly, I'm sure, from round to round. If one team happens to hit upon the sweet spot going into a given round, they could easily start climbing up that points table.
Today's action going quickly. We'd like to remind you that today's coverage is brought to you by the Virtual Competition Organization. It's also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products. Use the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. Casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Clearly priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotTV and get a 5% discount. Use the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceLab helps you improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free on racelab.app. Biker products include incredible immersion and bring realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from Czech Republic. Their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, or sequential shifters, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Drivers in the midst of the final few moments of qualifying, and Andrew Moran is right now one of the final drivers who can set a time on the racetrack. These drivers have less than 90 seconds to complete their current runs. Moran currently has the top time by about a 10.5 over Michael Blaze. Interestingly enough, James O'Brien, who's made some spot starts for private label team Hype throughout the campaign, has qualified for the first time this season in this series. And guess what? He's up to 3rd as a result of his first qualifying run, after starting in the back every race because he wanted the challenge. Now, he starts with the track position along with Dowden and Stevenson in the top 5.
Yeah, Dowden jumping into 4th there right towards the end of the qualifying session. One name that I don't see on that list is Kevin Santana, 2nd in the championship, arriving here at Okayama, so potentially not racing here tonight, which means that this will become his drop score as well. But a pretty tight qualifying session if you discount Andrew Moran. He clearly has an advantage, nearly a 1/4 second up the road, but then the next 4 drivers covered by 1/2 a tenth. It's going to be a really, really tight battle to get onto that podium.
Few more moments to go before the end of the qualifying session. A few drivers taking the time to warm up before tonight's 23-lap, 35-minute race. Remember, the fuel limit 50%, expecting 1 pit stop for all drivers within the final 10 minutes or so of tonight's event. 33 starters on the grid tonight. Tonight should be intriguing with how tight things are. Some drivers did battle the track a lot, it seemed, in practice and qualifying. Some drivers as many as 20 incident points in the span of 20 minutes.
Yeah, and we're sort of expecting to see that continue, I think, into the race, because it is a tough place to overtake. If you're going to try and make some progress through the field, you've got to pick your moments, be aggressive, be committed on the brakes. Don't have one of these sort of half looks up the inside, because things happen very, very quickly in this form of racing. And if you don't sort of fully commit to the move, that's when you can end up banging wheels. And as we know, that can be pretty disastrous. The run through the first few corners as well, a really tricky turn through that first right-hander, then into turn 2 at Williams. There's only really one quick line through those corners. Everyone will be trying to find that quick line, and inevitably there won't quite be space for everyone.
Few more moments before the starting grid, let's take a look at how it starts tonight. Andrew Moran starts on the pole with a 1:28.2 over to Michael Blaze, James O'Brien, and Michael Dowden. Mark Stevenson rounds out the top 5, but can try and keep it clean after some bad luck a few times ago. Rastelli, Kita, Horvath amongst the top 8, with Hill, Vasconcelos, Zert, and Vargas the top 12. Neil Alexander starts alongside Christopher Richards, a deep starting spot for Richards. Also towards the back grouping, Precker, McPherson, along with Bernie Victil. Keep an eye on him to charge the pack. Justin Johnson alongside Ray, Putnam, Holman, and Cochran, with Andrea Samba rounding out the top 24. Austin Harris was around the bottom of practice. He starts 25th. Coyle, DeWeese, Winter amongst the top 28. Inside the top 30, Buckley and David Hebert. The last drivers set times, Gore, McLaughlin, and Terry Radford. Your drivers all set to go. With that, the green lights are out. The drivers are ready. We're underway from Okayama. And a good start for Andrew Moran. Some tire spin in the heart of the pack. Single file for the top 2 spots, about 2 by 2, in fact near 3 wide for the rest of the drivers as they get things started for the iRacing here from Japan.
Yeah, great start there for Moran. That's exactly what he wanted. And look, he's already stolen a bit of a march on the rest of the field. Blaze in second, O'Brien in third position. Single file, really, across the first half dozen there. You can see the first of the side-by-side battles as they drop down into Atwood Curve. That really tricky right-hander. Quite a bit of camber. Carry the speed up the hill. And now, Justin, they head towards the best overtaking opportunity on the track.
This is the run up to the hairpin. Lots of potential to build up the draft before heading up to 5, then 6, known as Revolver. See some moves up to the inside. Vasconcelos taking the preferred line. Nick Horvath forced to the outside. There they go back to Revolver, though. The line taken back by Horvath. Vasconcelos not able to make the pass. That's for 7th.
Yeah, it's difficult, that section. You go from the right to the left. The inside at one corner turns into the outside at the next. Interestingly, at the front of the field, Michael Blaze just starting now to creep back towards the race leader, Andrew Moran. Most of the drivers perhaps just taking it easy on slightly cold tyres, low tyre pressures. But as we come towards the end of this first 2.3 miles of racing here at Okayama, they'll be starting to get into the groove. And it will be interesting to see whether Andrew Moran has the race pace that he demonstrated in qualifying.
Contact going in through the final corner through turn 11, Nick Horvath. Horvath potentially may have some wing troubles. He does have some technical problems. However, no major damage. Vasconcelos trying the block. Meanwhile, up to the first corner. Hold things off and keep it side by side. Takeshi Kita, a poor start. Back to 9th already through Williams.
Yeah, not good news for Takeshi, third in the championship, but as we said, he's already had that non-finish, needs to be banking the points at every opportunity, and it won't be easy to make that ground up in this race, that's for sure. It's a reasonably long race, 35 minutes, but limited on overtaking opportunities. There is one here, though, as they make their way up the hill, and a good exit from Atwood by Kita. He gets the inside line, and he'll be hoping to stay there now all the way down the long back straight and seize that apex at the hairpin. He's going to have a small overlap. It'll have to be very late on the brakes, and he's not late enough on the brakes, so stays in 9th place.
Or stay in line. Zachary Zert also behind them. Of note, 2 drivers with some issues in the opening laps, DeWeese and Winter. Winter has already had to go to the pit lane with mandatory repairs. Thomas Coyle this lap with mandatory repairs as well. So a few drivers having some problems. Christopher Richards has also just had to put his car on the tow truck. Let's take a look at some of these incidents that have all started to pile up. Well, that's a way to get some.
Yeah, it is a bit like Skittles sometimes into that hairpin on the first lap, and it's a blind corner. You take a lot of speed through there too, because it has got a bit of camber to it, and I think that's what caught some of the other cars out further back. They arrived on the scene, had no idea that there was drama unfolding up the road, and unfortunately drove straight into the accident. But no such problems for our lead group, who are definitely, Justin, bunching back together. Moran not escaping. You're riding on board here with Mark Stevenson in 5th, and he is within 1.5 seconds of the race lead. So the tight racing everything we predicted so far proving to be true.
So far, that top 6 indeed all working together. Meanwhile, just a second or two ago, this spin costing some drivers time. Marcellus Burning having to back up into the sand trap for the first corner. Avoid side pod contact. Same troubles for Barry Cochran in this section. Let's take a look at their replay. And remember, that Evolve car has been dealing with technical issues, and you see how long they disappeared, and then it caused a little trouble for a second.
Sim Racer's worst nightmare, that you just don't know where that car's going to rejoin, and when you're running nose to tail like this, you're dealing in very fine margins, so yeah, that can sometimes cause really big trouble. Thankfully that wasn't quite as significant an incident as it could be. Some shuffling of the pack further back, and that is why Nick Horvath has been off the road coming out of Piper Corner. He had been running in about 8th place, but he dropped outside of the top 10, and that is how he did it. A bit too much speed in, and I think he made the barriers there too.
Mandatory repairs now for Nick Horvath, and remember, in this series, no fast repairs, so he'll have to come in. Austin Harris has also just parked it for the night after incidents. So just like that, after about 3-4 laps, some drivers starting to really pick up the damage here. How do you try and minimize that damage, though, at this track? Speaking of damage, Terry Radford, one of our RaceSpot broadcasters, has just crashed the car.
Oh dear, we didn't see that coming, did we? Poor Terry having a bit of a tough time, and another spin there, and this is big. That is 2 cars at the back of the top 10, and Brendan Victil is one of them. He was really unlucky there, had nothing to do with the initial moment, and his car backwards into the barriers. He surely is out of the race.
Gavin Array was the car who spun around, that going into Victil and sending the 63 into the barriers. Victil having to take the tow, and now Evolve's Academy program with troubles. Also with troubles, Terry Radford. This is his 2nd ever race at this racetrack.
Yeah, and it might be his last, I think. He's not really getting on with Okayama. There's how the other spin started. A wheel on the grass turning into Williams, and these cars do not like that. And the most frustrating thing there, I suppose, is that the car that sort of triggered all of that, Gavin Ray, well, he got away with that scot-free. No obvious damage, and he continues on his way.
A lot of drivers mid-pack having problems. Let's take another look at some of the replays again. Technical issues we talked about when it came to that car. It's already had some contact we've seen with the barriers. But looking towards some of these respective packs, this is where the importance of being able to maintain passes is going to be so critical, Andy. So far, the packs are starting to break up. In fact, Moran started to break away from the lead, as well as a couple of the other small groups.
Yeah, Moran now starting to stretch his legs. We have had a little bit of a change there for 6th by the looks of it, with Stevenson dropping down, at least temporarily, outside of the top 10.
Oh no, that's why.
That is why he's had a spin. And again, Justin, that is Williams, that 2nd corner, catching another front runner out.
Flip the grass on the entry.
Yeah,
And nothing.
Exactly the same thing, isn't it? Such an easy mistake to make, because your eye line there is pointing at the apex, and it's a long way away from the racing line that you're on. Very easy just to drift a little bit too wide, but that is the 2nd driver in the space of a couple of minutes to make exactly the same mistake.
So Mark Stevenson, since getting the direct drive wheel that he was very happy about, has done well in one race, DNF'd in the next, or rather in the first one with the wheel. Now we'll have to find a way to drive back from 13th position. He cycled just behind Precker and Hill, who we're keeping an eye on in the previous battle. I was about to say, this seems to be again the track with how difficult and technical it is. You have to be able to get the practice down here.
For sure, you've got to have that confidence coming in. Bit of a moment there. That was Vasconcelos, wasn't it, running wide at the final corner. And so, just like that, Takeshi Kita back into 6th position. So he is making some progress, and now he's got some clean air. He's about 2.5 seconds or so behind Cristelli in 5th, and it will be interesting to monitor his lap times over the next few minutes, see whether or not he can gain on that leading group. But yeah, for sure, having practice time around a track like this especially is crucial. There are certain nuances, certain things that you need to learn about how to get these cars around the track quickly. That can only come with practice time. But I've always found, Justin, that it's equally important to practice with other cars around you. Don't just go out there in solo practice, because you're only on your own during qualifying, where the points are scored in the races. You're with other cars, and you need to be able to work out where the passing places are, where you need to defend, because when everyone's as evenly matched as they are in this series, passing comes at a premium. The more practice you have of that, the more chance you'll have of moving forwards.
Confirmation coming in, by the way, from one of the earlier DNFs. Terry Radford reported having wheel damage as a result of one of the earlier spins in the race. Remember, he had started essentially shotgun on the field, had passed a few drivers. Then we see what happened on the replay. But keep in mind, when it comes to drivers like Precker having to make sure the points are scored for the respective side, here's a look at his webcam view. Very dark in the room tonight, in fact.
It was very relaxed, though, I have to say. I think I'd have a bit of a sweat on at this point if I were him. These are quite physically demanding cars, and you've got to be very, very precise with all of your inputs, the pedals and the wheel. And you can see that he is as smooth as anything as he makes his way down towards this first turn. We'll ride on board with him here quite literally. Nice, smooth inputs. I say as he gets sideways on the exit of the first corner. That's okay, but you don't really want to be stepping the tail out too much. These cars with high levels of downforce, they can snap sideways underneath you really quickly. And Corey doing a good job there to keep hold of it.
Representing the gold portion of the team, keep in mind, Zach Grazer, currently the leading car for the YS Motorsports Gold Division at the moment. Andrew Moran, of course, part of the Black Division for the team standings. Kind of see, though, Mark Stevenson being let go in the backdrop just now. So Stevenson gets a chance to work with his pal, Lucas Hill, giving the spot up in the Karts That Go Yay car.
Yeah, Stevenson should have pace here to move a little bit further up the field. Obviously, he's got Precker just in front, and then a couple of seconds up the road is McPherson. So a top 10 finish still potentially on the cards here for Stevenson, and that's what he needs. He's another driver who didn't finish that race at Mount Panorama, so really couldn't afford another bad result. Sits 5th in the championship standings arriving here tonight, and you can see the pace advantage that he's got over Precker. The trouble is where to make the pass. It won't be anywhere through these final two corners. Night corner down into the inventively named last corner, which brings you out onto the pit straight, but perhaps with a good exit, a nice slipstream and a bit of bravery on the brakes, he might be able to make this pass into turn one.
Stevenson looking to the outside, and there's the lift. Precker lets him go. Stevenson able to recover 2 spots in the span of a lap just like that with the help there. Kevin McPherson, the next driver up the road, more than a second up. About a third of the way through lap time wise, already about 12 minutes or so, 11 minutes should say, on the clock burned off so far. So far, as we take a look at the battles going on with Kita and Vasconcelos, what did I say? Bit of a calm tempo once things have settled out here.
Yeah, it was all action in the first couple of laps, as I sort of expected on a tight track like this one, but now people starting to settle into their rhythm. I am a little bit surprised at Takeshi Kita, though. Since he broke into this clean air, he's running in the low 1 minute 30s, the leaders all in the mid to high 1 minute 28, so 28s and 9s, so he doesn't actually have front running pace. He's not escaping from Jake here. You're riding on board with the number 10 car as he sweeps through the right-hander at Hobbs Corner, bringing himself towards the end of another lap. And yeah, Kita, perhaps 6th place is as good as it will get. Whether he's maybe carrying some damage from early contact, we don't know. Certainly he lost a lot of ground in the first half a lap. Maybe there was something that led to that, but either way, having fought his way back into 6th, doesn't at the moment look likely to move any further forwards.
Yeah, in a lot of these cases too, we've seen throughout the seasons, you have to be able to work together to gain time, and they have gained time, I will say. About a 10th slower than the leader, but much quicker than everybody else in front of them. If you go side by side, you lose tons of ground, so you need to be smart.
Yeah, there is definitely one fast line around this track, and as soon as you go wheel to wheel, as much as we enjoy watching it, it's spectacular to watch, that's for sure. It will certainly slow you down. Now, can Jake make the move here down into the hairpin? You can see the way that that slipstream allows him to close in. Kita knows he's under pressure, pulls to the middle of the road to defend, and uses that camber. You can really see it from that onboard coverage there. The camber through the hairpin, just allowing you to go in on the defensive line, but not to wash out wide on the exit as you normally would do. So Takeshi Kita driving really smart there to keep hold of this 6th position.
Oh, some trouble. James O'Brien has brought up some smoke puffs. O'Brien was battling with Michael Blaze for 2nd. Not anymore. So James O'Brien's best starting position ever in this series has now seemed slipped back to where he's finished a lot of races to the edges of the top 5.
And we're going to see, I think, what happened here. So a bit of a lockup, runs wide, and once you get a wheel in the dirt, you're not going any further around the corner. Did well not to spin it, and actually only lost a couple of positions, but that was exactly what we were talking about actually before we went live. One thing
in trouble, Blaze!
Blaze from second place, unbelievable.
Michael Blaze on his own in second spot has also just wrecked it into turn 1.
Just lost the rear, didn't he? Didn't go near the grass and just lost the rear straight into the barriers. That is a strange one, Justin. These cars do have a good level of downforce, and it should be, in theory, quite tricky for them to break traction, but Blaze, that was a costly error for sure.
Keep in mind, one thing to touch upon, the track temperature is towards one of its hotter levels this season, 91 Fahrenheit, 81 air temp for reference. But it's also worth noting that a lot of drivers in the practice had struggled a bit in terms of the grip levels, in terms of making sure they were able to get the car to rotate under braking. Of note, a track block has just hit turn 1 again. Johnson and Cochran both crashed just now. There goes the Santa Cristelli by James O'Brien.
Yeah, this is the fight now for a podium place then with the demise of Michael Blaze, so more important than ever for these two to try and get one over on each other. And well, having said that Takeshi Kita wasn't going to be able to gain any more ground, he's picked up one freebie into the top 5, and as these two start to squabble, he could still be on for a podium here, so don't count Takeshi out. He does seem to have this habit, doesn't he, of finding himself at the front when it counts. Down towards the first corner then, Cristelli under pressure here from O'Brien. There's no attack that comes into turn number 1, but I think, Justin, before too much longer, we'll have 4 cars fighting for third place.
Going to be important to make sure things are played smartly here for O'Brien. A chance to build up the run for Atwood Curve. We try and take a risk, yes. He takes the peak, forces Cristelli wide. Cristelli makes the mistake. O'Brien with the pressure moves back to 3rd.
And Takeshi Kita might take advantage. He does take advantage to move into 4th position. Really clever driving that from O'Brien. Just showed his nose to the inside, and that was enough in the end to distract Cristelli. Missed his braking mark, and straight on he went. Now, can Takeshi Kita break back into the top 3 here? I think he might just have had a second win now. 19 minutes to go. Perhaps he's been managing the tyres in the first half of the race, but now he looks competitive, and he's picking up the pieces as other people start tripping over each other.
That's how you pick up championships in turn, making sure to take advantage of your competitors' mistakes, but also having the pace to maintain your own tempo, as we've seen tonight. And keep in mind, pressurize the mistake is a huge part of making passes here. We've already seen that a couple of times now. So how does Kita try and pressurize this?
Well, he's doing everything right so far. I think he just needs to keep that pressure on, like you say, and not make any mistakes of his own, because he now finds himself in a train, so he's focused at the moment, of course, on attacking James Bryan, trying to get into this 3rd position, but he also has to make sure that in going for a move, he doesn't end up scuppering his own line into a corner and leaving himself vulnerable to Cristelli behind. He's got a small gap right now over the 009 car, and I'm sure he's going to be looking to try and make a move. A good exit from this corner, a nice slipstream down the back straight, and he might start to really trouble O'Brien for 3rd.
Just past the halfway point in terms of the lap total, now less than 12 laps to go, but keep in mind, with how the mistakes have built up, depending on what happens with the top 2, we may end up going on that time in the upper left-hand corner and go a lap shorter. It may be tight. With how the incidents have started to pile up, the pit window is also open. Only Tyler Gore and Owen McLaughlin so far have elected to come to the pit lane.
Yeah, interestingly, the pace, though, not really dropping off, is it? In fact, Andrew Moran just set his, and indeed the race's, fastest lap of the race last time, a 128.345. So he still has some tyre life left, even in these extremely hot temperatures. But you're right, those that are really dicing for position further back, they're abusing their equipment a little bit more, and that will start to slow their pace down as we move now properly into the second half of the race.
Don't forget, when it comes to this type of racing, too, usually the faster you go in turn is in part because the fuel burn, but you need to be quick, Andy, and good at worn tires to drive well. Trouble from McPherson, who is running as high as the top 10 as he enters the pit lane here. but that's the major thing. You need to know how to drive the worn tires with the lighter fuel load and still maximize the time like Moran's doing.
Yeah, and like I said, these open wheel single seaters, they are quite twitchy naturally. So as soon as you're starting to drive on worn tyres, they're going to start stepping out from underneath you a lot more, particularly under acceleration. And it's not as easy to control that in something like the IR04 as it would be in a GT car, for example. So yeah, that's definitely a real skill. As I say, it's not one that I possess, but it sure is exciting to watch people who really know what they're doing pedal these cars around. And you're right, I think they are now heading into arguably the most difficult part of the race.
Right now, the pit stop delta is about 4 or 5 seconds for reference tonight, as we keep an eye still on the 199, Lucas Hill, Corey Precker, still amongst this fight as well. As there goes Precker off the racetrack, Hill gives him a break, lets him rejoin the circuit. Will this open up a run, though, for Hill, making his way to Redmond? Yes, it does. To the inside, Hill. Precker trying to go the long way off towards Hobbs now, to the switchback. Precker able to hold on for now.
Yeah, found some grip on the outside there at Redmond Corner. He really managed that situation well, but the pressure starting to tell. He's making just 1 or 2 little mistakes, and that is music to the ears for Lucas Hill. He knows that he's going to have a chance here to have another go down the pit straight. He carries a bit more speed off the final corner, tucks into that slipstream, less than a car length back as they come across the line, peeks to the inside line, doesn't commit to the move, but has Precker got the car stopped in time? Well, on this occasion, yes, he had. Brilliant battle this, a real battle of wills between the two drivers as they both try not to make that final mistake.
Pastime by the way. Vasconcelos came in for a 4-second pit stop, the first of the top 6 drivers. Like to open up the pit window. These two still fighting hard. The battle for third has also heated up as well on circuit, so the battle's starting to get a little bit popcorny, where that's more so less of the popcorn seat per se and more so towards everybody wants to start putting the microwaves on with the popcorn in them right now to make some passes before the pit.
Now, Justin, it's 2 o'clock here in the UK, and you've got me thinking about food. This is not good. We've got plenty of racing still to get through before I can start properly thinking about that. But certainly this race has been going by very, very quickly. On to the 15th lap of the race very shortly, and still plenty of these battles popping up, as you said, up and down the order. At the front, though, Andrew Moran just in dominant form, isn't he? He is already pulling clear as a couple of cars head for the pit lane.
Hito with a great pit entry, gaining some time there. That's kind of the benefit of being the car behind in some cases. You can late brake a bit compared to the lead car and take advantage of some time like Kita just did on Dowden.
Yeah, a lot of drivers forget that, don't they? The pit entry is part of the racetrack. Until you hit that pit entry line where you've got to get down to pit lane speed, there is definitely time to be gained. Interestingly as well, they've both chosen to come into the pit lane quite early there, so trying to get out perhaps into some clean air and really maximise the second part of the race and let everyone else for the time being keep on fighting.
Still fighting on the racetrack now, Precker and Hill. Lap traffic to the left side of the track, that's Brad Winter. And Winter nearly loops it to get out of the way. Winter, keep in mind, a few laps ago coming out of the pit lane after 13 minutes of mandatory damage repairs. These two, keep in mind, are still matching the pace of those for Stevenson and Vargas. So they have done well, but they've lost 23 seconds during the early stages, even though now their pace has picked up a bit.
Yeah, you'll never really recover that sort of time once you've lost it in those early parts of the race. As we've said, the gaps between drivers inside the top 10, just not that significant, so you're really relying on the group ahead of you to start tripping over each other and allow you to close in. But when you look at the timing tower down the left-hand side of your screen, those next few drivers are all pretty well spread out, so not likely to keep battling. For now, this remains the closest of the battles really inside of the top 10, and you feel it's only a matter of time here before Lucas Hill manages to find a way through. Again, Precker doesn't really reach the apex through the final corner, and this is the best chance that Hill has had for some time. Peaks to the inside line. This time I think he'll have to commit to the move. Who is latest on the brakes into the first quarter? Well, they're very evenly matched, and they continue to run wheel to wheel towards turn 2.
Precker nearly had the bobble, though. Up to Williams. Up the curbing. And Luke Hill nearly getting to the back end of Precker's wing. Hill with the inside going through Moss S up to Atwood. Will Precker give up the ghost? Yes. The carts that go, yay, car is up to 7th.
Unfortunately, there was a car that went a little bit wide going through outwards, so he's not got this done just yet, because now he's giving the slipstream to Precker, who I think will have another go up the inside into the hairpin. You can see he's tucked right up behind the black 199 car, dives for the inside line. Is he late enough on the brakes? He's got by far the preferred line, but was just a little bit too far back to make the move stick, and I think that now Lucas Hill should be able to get his head down and start to pull a gap. But really good side-by-side racing there for a good half a lap between these two as they fight for, at the moment, 7th place, as some others ahead of them have pitted.
These are the first of the drivers in front of Michael Dowden, by the way. Already complete the service. Takeshi Kita, for reference on the timing polygon, just finally passed Joseph Homan to be able to move up to 10th position. Comes to the 5 car, one of the U-Dogs back machines in the field. Vargas coming into the pit lane alongside these two drivers this time by. The top 5 have all extended the fuel run as far as potentially they can go. We are inside the estimated mark within the final 10 minutes of the clock in the next lap.
Yes, this is all going to shake out in the final moments of the race, isn't it? Which is quite exciting. Out of the pit lane goes Vargas, and he's going to be joined probably in about 12th place. Should just get out ahead of the number 27 of Neil Alexander, which he does, and takes that inside line for the first corner. But yeah, this is not going to become clear until we move into the final 8 or 9 minutes of the race, most likely. And I think pit lane is going to become a very, very busy place over the next couple of laps. There is the race leader, Andrew Moran. Well, he's in no hurry to head for the pit lane. He has got not a single car behind him. He's got a couple of lapped cars ahead, though, and that might perhaps influence his timing as to when to pit. He doesn't want to lose any time in traffic.
Is there going to be a peel in? No. So Moran may be going another lap. Lucas Hill has just had issues this lap, as well as 1 or 2 others. But the 99 elects to keep it on the racetrack. It's been outright domination for Moran. No mistakes. He's been running within half a second of his fastest lap time all race. It's hard to beat it. Here comes the pit stops for Cristelli and Zert. They are in together, 3rd and 4th on the racetrack. That leaves Moran, O'Brien, Stevenson, who just came in, potentially Corey Precker, so there's a couple others who are trying to go to the end of this window this time.
Yeah, so where will they come out then in relation to Kita? That's a slightly late pit entry, just about getting in there. That's Joseph Homan almost throwing everything away on the way into the pit lane, but he gets it slowed down.
Oh my goodness. Too slow. He's on the limit. He was on the limiter all the way on the access road.
I thought that was slow. We'd said that you need to attack that pit entry, and you're right, he was going slowly, so a place lost and probably 2 or 3 seconds lost. That is big.
Keep in mind, I believe it's his first start, yes, his of the season for the U-Dogs Motorsports driver. He'll lose some time in the pit window. Here is a look at Vasconcelos. Cycled right behind the 84 of Zert. Cristelli cycled a second up front of them. Kita has closed up the drop to Dowden amongst those who have come in. Moran, O'Brien, and Precker amongst the top 30 yet to peel in, expecting pit stops the next moment or two.
Indeed so. Back down towards the hairpin we go then in this fight for 7th positions, just keeping Vasconcelos behind as they turn into the tight right-hander, one of the tightest corners on the track, and a big slide there, and that was a good save by Zerd. And actually Vasconcelos didn't really know where to go. He had the overspeed, but the car ahead was sideways and he didn't want to risk the contact, so hit the brakes instead. That was probably sensible, but he'll be kicking himself now. That was a good chance to move ahead of that number 84 car, and he's still stuck behind for now.
The leaders have come in. Moran, O'Brien. Both in the pit lane. Moran's already completed the service. O'Brien only half a second quicker in the box. So the pit window has just about closed. Vasconcelos looking to see with Zerd if they can cycle in front of Corey Precker. Precker yet to make the box, so they jump up to what's now the battle for 6th and 7th. They have a 5-second cushion over Stevenson, and now they are 2 seconds back as a group to the 009 of Cristelli. That's the end of the pit window, 5 laps to go.
Game on for 2nd place as well, isn't it? Just noticed on the timing screen how close O'Brien, Down and Kita are, and they are going to do battle now for sure over the remaining minutes of the race. Out onto the back straight they go. We're following that fight for 2nd place now, about 6 seconds adrift of the race leader, but this is where the action is. Dowden's got the run. He might force O'Brien to defend into the hairpin, not on this occasion, but 3 cars under a very small blanket as we head into the closing stages.
Keep in mind, Dowden in several cases throughout the past couple seasons, he's had some troubles when trying to battle for positions. This has been where the pressure has seen him slide back in the pylon a couple times. Can he hold on for a solid points-paying finish tonight? Dowden still looking for a second top 5 in the first 4 races this season. Of note, Cristelli in the pack behind has dropped to 7th after he got loose, so keep in mind, these 3 have a 6-second cushion over the next pack now.
Yeah, they do, and I think they'll feel pretty confident they can keep that, so they will now battle pretty hard, I reckon, for these positions, knowing that they're not likely to be caught by those further back. Towards the first corner again, it's again going to be all down to not making mistakes. If O'Brien has even the slightest slip here, then you can be sure that Michael Dowden will be up the inside in a heartbeat, and Takeshi Kita has proven already that he is capable of pouncing when those ahead fall over each other, and that perhaps is what he's hoping for now, just keeping a watching brief as O'Brien and Dowden go to war.
Dowden for YS Motorsports Black looking to set up James O'Brien. O'Brien trying to find a way to keep ahead. Here comes the double toe for Kita as well, though a little bit too far back for the lunge. No move for Dowden. Trying to peek, however, up to the hairpin. Not able to make it side by side, however. Moran is pulling away from all of them, so this likely will be the battle for 2nd through 4th the rest of the way, pending any troubles for the 99.
Yeah, Kita, again, just closing in there. Looks really good under braking, does Takeshi Kita. Close right into the hairpin, but he's not close enough into the braking zone to make the overtake. He's really relying on these two going wheel to wheel, which I think will happen because Michael Dowden is showing a little bit of frustration now, just weaving to the inside into the braking zones, trying to distract O'Brien, trying to force him into missing an apex somewhere, and only time will tell whether that's going to work, but this is really, really intense stuff. Only a handful of laps to go. All 3 of these drivers on the edge, and now, Justin, they've got some lap traffic to deal with as well.
Yeah, that lap traffic may become a bit of a factor, to say the least. True to Louise is that lap traffic under 3 estimated laps to go, under 5 minutes on the clock. Likely will go to the lap total by about 30 seconds or so at the pace these drivers are running. That lap traffic 10 car lengths up the road. Dowden has not been able to pop the bubble O'Brien's held on to for the spot, though. They were all within a couple 100ths of a second last time by on time.
Yeah, this time onto the back straight, actually Kita closer to Dowden than Dowden is to O'Brien, but they'll likely all bunch back together again in the slipstream. You can see it happening as they come towards us, but I don't think we'll see any moves made into the hairpin. This is typical open wheel stuff. Very late on the brakes for Dowden, almost into the back of O'Brien's car. That was as close as it gets, but they avoid the contact.
Dowden very lucky there. Coming up to 2 to go. There's the lap traffic to Deweese. Deweese lifts off the gas, lets them battle it out. Heading now off to Redmond. Dowden needs to close up a car length to realistically have the set. Remember, there is some aero wash through these corners. That seems to be the bugaboo for Dowden to set this up, or for anybody in this pack outside of O'Brien who has the clean air.
So worth remembering that O'Brien and Dowden not really factors in the championship battle, whereas Takeshi Kita certainly is 3rd place coming into this race. So arguably it's the car at the back of this trio who really could do with the points the most, but knows that he's already had that DNF at Mount Panorama, can't afford another one, and 4th place is better than ending up in the gravel trap with a broken car. And again, he continues to watch as O'Brien and Dowden dice for position ahead of him. A thrilling battle this, but I wonder whether maybe Dowden will be a bit more careful under braking into the hairpin this time. Remember, almost outbraked himself a lap ago, and if he does start to take things a bit more cautiously, that could open up the door for the 4th place man to go on the attack.
Dowden trying to take a little bit more of a diamond line for the apex, going through Atwood. That allowing to build up enough of a run, still dead even on the speeds, now finally picking up the tempo. Taking a peek to the hairpin, this time Dowden commits, he licks the stem. Side by side, off through the hairpin, off to Revolver, Dowden up to 2nd. Kita can't get by, O'Brien slams the door for 3rd.
Well, that shows how much I know, because I thought Dowden would be a bit more careful into the hairpin, but no, went completely the other way and committed, but he makes a mistake now coming out of Piper Corner. The door is opened again, and O'Brien back through on the inside line. 2 positional changes for 2nd place in less than half a lap. This is open wheel racing at its best, and almost some contact there.
Might have actually didn't have some contact. Dowden having to lock up the brakes. Kita now going for 3rd. Kita sends it up the right side. Up to the last corner, Kita coming to the white flag this time by looking to try and hold things firm as they come down the front straightaway. Up to the first corner, Downen looking for a step on the podium. Kita looking for points in the championship and another podium for his season. Downen not able to make the move yet as they head off to Williams. O'Brien pulls away for second.
Takeshi Kita, who was almost outside the top 10 at the end of the first lap, has somehow got himself into third place and now just has to defend for under a lap of the 2.3 mile Okayama circuit. Down goes up the inside towards Atwood. He's going to take the place, but that might be too early, Justin, because now Kita will have the draft, he'll have the run up the back straight, and will surely attack into the hairpin.
Already defensive line by Downen. Downen boxes Kita in on the left side of the track. Downen taking the right side. Half a lap to go. Up to the hairpin. Kita deeper on the brakes. Downen with the preferred line. Up to the bank portion of the corner. Up to the revolver. Downen nearly clear. Kita forces him to the outside. Kita forced the lift off. Downen able to pinch. Coming up to the final sector. Oh, and Kita nearly spins it. Kita holds on to it. Kita drops back nearly a full second. Michael Downen able to defend for third. Only a couple more corners to go. On with this as well, Andrew Moran. He pulled away early. He dominates the race. Andrew Moran leads every lap in Japan to win round 4 of the IRL 4 series in the PRL powered by VCO. O'Brien with the career race. Kita dropping behind down at the line for the podium spots.
Brilliant drive that from Moran, absolutely wheel perfect, but what fantastic action we enjoyed behind O'Brien, Dowden and Kita, really putting on the show for us there. Got to feel a bit for Takeshi Kita there, threw absolutely everything at it, almost threw it all away coming out of Piper Corner on the final lap. That was about as sideways as you can get one of these IRO4s without looping it completely, and actually I think he'll be quite glad to bank the points for 4th place given how disappointing the start of his race was.
Some of the final drivers crossing the stripes, some big cushions in a couple cases. Alexander, McLaughlin, Hebert, and Saba amongst the final drivers the lead lap. Give credit to Putnam, Coyle, and Winter, who all had major damage repair today. All looking to finish this race out in the next few moments or so. So the last of the drivers get set to cross the stripe, so not expecting major changes 14th through 16th. The last of the lap drivers have just crossed. These are the unofficial race results. Andrew Moran wins by 5.3 seconds over James O'Brien, with Michael Downen in 3rd. Takeshi Kita goes from 7th to 4th to gain some ground in the championship. Jake Vasconcelos and Zachary Zert amongst the top 6, with Stevenson, Vargas, Cristelli, and Precker the top 10. Kevin McPherson behind them was as high as 10th spot today, dropped to 11th in turn for the checker flag after some troubles. Hill was also battling with Corey Precker much of the race, but after he had some troubles, he finishes 12th. Alexander, McLaughlin, Hebert, Holman, and Saba, the last drivers of the lead lap. Tower Gore, after a spin towards the third of the race, finishes 18th. Deweese, Cochran, the top 20. 2 laps down today include some drivers with significant damage repair, Putnam and Coyle. Buckley also had mandatory repairs along with Brad Winter. Among the DNFs today, Blaze, Johnson, Ray, Victil, along with Burning and Horvath, the top 30. And the drivers who finished the race early today, Austin Harris, Terry Radford, and Christopher Richards only made it 1 lap before his troubles. That's what topped him at the unofficial race results. Andrew Moran, max points day, to say the very least. Andrew Moran dominant today here at Okayama. Andrew, a max points day. How are you feeling? 37 points on the board.
I got the fastest lap.
Yes, you did. Lap 11.
Let's go. Triple crown, baby. All day. I'm excited. This is great. This is what I want. A dominant win. You know, I'm gonna do it again next week and the week after. So, yes, sir.
A big step at the championship. Your 2nd victory of the season. How would you describe the racing for you tonight? Starting from the pole and getting to be the Pied Piper of the pack as things started to splinter behind you.
You know, I actually raced against Michael Blaze, I believe is his name, a lot. He started on 2nd. I raced against him a lot online. I know he's pretty solid, and we like to race against each other. But it's unfortunate he, I guess, crashed. But you know, I was happy to be able to get away from him because I knew he was quick. So, start.
So a big step as mentioned in the championship. Now, right now, the picture is looking amongst the race winners, you and Kita. What is that focal point like, knowing that Kita can't afford a mistake? He's used the DNF already. Your lowest points total, 26. It could be an intriguing championship once the drops come into factor.
Yeah, it could be. I've been, it's funny, in all these races, we haven't raced wheel to wheel yet. So it's coming. I know it's coming, but yeah, it's exciting because this winning this week was really important to me, because I knew if I dropped my week and he's ahead in the championship, if we drop the weeks. So, trying to keep ahead is important. Okay.
Well, congratulations on your second victory this season. In fact, you're the only driver to finish in the top 5 in all the races so far.
Awesome. Pumped.
It's Andrew Moran, your race winner tonight for YS Motorsports Black here in Japan. The second spot on the podium today goes to somebody who qualified today. Started with track position. He finishes second. He's with Andy.
Yeah, James O'Brien, congratulations on the second place, but boy, did you have to fight for that one.
Oh yeah, that was a lot more difficult than I expected, and probably it's my own ignorance there. These guys are awesome drivers, and any little tiny mistake, even just like not having the nose where you need it on the car, will cost you dearly here. So definitely learned a lot during this race, because usually I start in the back and I don't get the pleasure to drive up front with these guys.
Well, that begs the question then, which do you enjoy more, the sort of last to first challenge, or starting and mixing it with the quick guys right from the get-go?
That obviously was a lot more fun to me. The last few weeks I haven't qualified still, but I've been feeling more and more comfortable with this car every week. I know I wrecked last race at Bathurst, but I honestly think I could have pulled a top 5 out there. I was flying early on, but my own mistake cost me there. But Okayama is pretty much everybody's rookie track here when you start on iRacing, so I'm really familiar with the track, and the car just felt super dialed in. So I was like, you know what, let's qualify. And I think I could have had pole, but I got blocked on one of my Q laps, and it cost me the time there. Oh boy, my number on my car is messed up. I have to fix that. And I'd settled with third, but I definitely didn't think I was going to hold on to that.
Oh, talk us through those final few laps, because we really enjoyed the battle you had with Michael and Takeshi. What do you think it was that gave you that advantage ultimately?
Pitting later, practicing my pit entry, seeing how fast I could go on pit entry, because I pretty much was a pit to pass there, if I remember. They were both a little bit ahead of me, I think, before we pit, and I cycled out just a nose ahead of them, and that was just all came down to getting into your box, hitting your marks, getting out of your box as quick as possible, hitting the speed limiter off as quick as possible, just rehearsing that.
Well, you got it absolutely spot on today, James. Congratulations. I'm sure this is not the last we'll see of you mixing it on the podium.
We'll see. It'd be nice to see me up here again.
I've got a feeling we will. James, congratulations. Meanwhile, Justin is catching up with our third place finisher, who had another fight on his hands all race long.
Yes, indeed. Michael down in third step of the podium tonight. How would you describe your race? Started up top 5, kept top 5.
Felt good. One or two mistakes messed me up, but stayed with it. Stuck on the podium.
Seemed like a tough battle with James O'Brien. What was that like from your perspective in the cockpit? I believe you knew he touched one time.
Yeah, I tapped his rear going into that right-hander in sector 3, the last sector.
So, meanwhile, though, it's been a season where you've showed great pace. In fact, the past couple seasons. Now you pick up another top 5 on the season. So now what is that discussion point going to be big? What's it going to take for you to become the championship threat? 33 points back entering tonight.
I mean, top 3 tonight, best finish, so that's pretty good. And for me, I think it's just about putting all the pieces together one by one. And tonight, I think I really showed that I could hold early and then use that aggression late in the race. I think that worked out really well.
Thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on the podium tonight, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael Dowden coming away with the podium tonight. That rounds out their discussions with the top three. I'd like to thank our entire top three. Take the time to speak with us during post-race coverage for the IRL4 side of the card. Keep in mind, the next time these drivers will hit the racetrack is Road Atlanta. We head off to the state of Georgia to see how drivers fare out on January the 26th. Green flag and lights. About 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch that here on RaceSpot and on VCO. But with that portion of the event's festivities completed here for the IRL4s, it's time to head to Andy's backyard. To Brands Hatch we go for the Formula 3 Series for the Precision Racing League, powered by VCO, for their fourth round of this season. Andy, plenty of motorsports experience for you in this country. You call some of the top racing series in this nation. This is a very familiar track for you tonight.
It's one of the absolute classics of British motorsport, and with good reason. It's got everything you need to make a great racetrack. It's got some really, really high-speed corners, some of the most iconic corners actually in European motorsport, things like Paddock Hill Bend in the first corner, the drop-down Pilgrim's Drop into the three quick right-handers out the back, Hawthorne, Westfield and Sheen Curve. A really difficult circuit, but a lovely place to be. I've spent many a weekend at Brands Hatch. It always provides great racing and a really nice atmosphere as well in that natural sort of amphitheatre setting on the Indy circuit. And I'm sure that tonight it's going to put on some top quality Formula 3 action.
Let's take a look at the schedule coming into tonight. These drivers, keep in mind, last time out, raced at a brand new circuit to the iRacing platform for the most recent build, circuit de Nevers Magny Cours. That's seen plenty of action and some very wild moments because of some of the hairpin sections. Coda and Suzuka before that also produced some intriguing racing. Consistency has been hard this campaign. Keep in mind the major consistent part of the schedule, just about a majority, in fact, just about all the circuits outside of maybe two are Grand Prix style circuits, you can argue.
A nice variety again, though, as you said, even among those sort of Formula 1 standard racetracks, you've got a little bit of something there, haven't you? But really intriguing to see how they got on at Long Beach, a street circuit. That's going to be a challenge. And Rudskogen, a new circuit to everybody on iRacing. And yeah, how these cars will race around there is going to be really, really interesting. Twin Ring Motegi they'll be familiar with. Red Bull Ring, that's going to be really good fun. Lots of good slipstreaming action there. And then it all finishes back in the US of A at Watkins Glen. A perfect place to round out what is hopefully going to be a close run championship.
Let's take a look at how that championship is faring out, starting with the pro side. Sebastian Coffret is the points leader entering tonight. His lowest points total is just a 30 this season. 3 top 5s and 3 starts. Max Preston very quietly is in second. Michael Coffret, Andrew Waring, the defending champion. And how about a quiet top 5 in the standings for Tyler Pierre Richards? Amongst the drivers expected to do really well this season, like a Kabuizi, he's amongst those who have had 0 points this season. Some others still trying to see if they can find that little extra rhythm. Keep in mind, consistency, very difficult. Some of the drivers in the top 10 are yet to find a top 5 this year. That's how wacky it's been to start.
Yeah, you're right. It's been all about consistency, really. Sebastian Coffret really at the top of the points by 24 because he's not had a bad race yet. He's been near the front or at the front in each one of the 3 rounds so far, whereas everybody else really inside the top 5 or 6 have had at least one off race, and they'll all be asking the question and perhaps hoping, is that going to happen to Sebastian? Well, still 7 races to go, and if he does have a slip up, they'll be right back on his tail.
Keep in mind, when it comes to this championship and how it's structured too, the AM side is always going to be wild. How about put this in perspective? The AM drivers this entire season have combined for 1 top 5. Alexander Rivera. Rivera has DNS'd and DNF'd in the other 2 starts. Richard Swindell's has been the most consistent in scoring points this season. Remember, to be amongst the top 30 or so to be able to score points. If you want to be able to battle for this championship, it's the overall points tally, not separate points tallies if you're an AM or a pro driver in the classes.
And that's really tricky for the AM drivers because it means they've got no choice but to interact with the pros. You know, they can't just focus on having their own race. If they're running a couple of positions behind the class leader, but they've got a couple of pros in front of them, they've got to go on the attack and try to get past those pro drivers who will not want to be overtaken by an AM. So it's really tricky. It could come down to really who survives most of the races, because these AM drivers can often find themselves in the thick of the battles, not always in a good way.
With some of these teams, especially some of those fighting on the pro side throughout the campaign, Wave Italy, keep in mind, has been the top platform group entering tonight. 34 points for reference over Evolve Formula 3, 51 over Evolve Sim Sports. The drivers are in the midst of qualifying for the next 8 minutes or so, plus the runoff time. We get ready to get racing once again here from Brands Hatch. Michael Cofre is the quickest driver amongst the qualifying session for reference. Player Preston Rivera wants the AM drivers in Aussie Millway at this facility. You mentioned how prestigious this track can be here, though. These drivers tonight are running on the GP layout for this facility, with the drivers having a cool racetrack. It's almost 1 p.m. in Sim. The track temperature is just 80 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning the speeds were in the 1/15th, about 15 seconds nearly quicker than what we've seen for the iRacing 4s at Okayama at about the same distance.
Yeah, the difference here is just the average speed. I know this section of the circuit, the Indy section, looks really tight and technical, not that dissimilar to Okayama. It's when you get out onto the Grand Prix loop that things really start to open up. And of course, these F3 cars are able to carry the speed a bit more. They've got that bit more downforce, that bit more aerodynamic grip, and they are full commitment out at the back of the circuit. But this is a really unforgiving circuit. When you go out into the trees, well, you don't have any room for error. If you get it wrong, you're going off the track, and there's very, very little runoff area. It's also notoriously difficult to overtake around here in an open wheel car, and these F3 cars in particular, I think, will present a challenge, and that means that qualifying is oh so important. And right now, Justin, well, qualifying is oh so tight.
Also tight indeed amongst the top times as looked upon moments ago. Drivers in the majority of the pack, just a couple tenths of a second of separations. The circuit at the moment. Facility. Keep in mind, only one penalty of note entering this week. Warren Cofre, a 5-point penalty entering this round. Outside of that, no other penalties were distributed from the last time out in France. Keep in mind, the drivers in pinkish purple are those in the M class. The blue is your pro class competitors. Michael Cofre, James Muller, Preston, Hardman, and Rivera. Now your top 5. A great run again for Rivera, who's looking to make up for a DNS and a DNF to try and double his points tally at least.
Yeah, up inside the top 5 overall. That's seriously impressive. There, though, you're seeing the driver who at the moment is at the top of the times, and Cofre coming through to try and improve again, a bit like we saw in the IRO4s. It's very, very close for second place on back, but we are seeing that 3/10 or so advantage right at the front. James Muller there, second fastest, 1 minute 15.4. Well, the next 3 drivers after him also on the 1 minute 15.4s. We're right on board with him here through Westfield Corner, using all of the track and quite a bit more. You get a great view here, Justin, of just how committed you have to be through a number of blind corners.
A lot of scrapes in the car, and there go the marbles, and there goes the right front tire. James Muller, keep in mind, just 6 points and 2 DNSs this season. Looking for his best start of the year. So far as well, Andrew Hardman you can put towards that category. He had a DNS already. Rivera, looking to try and build a massive buffer on his AM competitors. If he holds on to the spot for the next 4.5 minutes, this is huge for his day.
Yeah, Rivera a country mile clear of the rest of the AM drivers as well. So Rivera really looks to have got things sorted around here at Brands Hatch. And that really does just come down to the commitment and having the comfort levels, the drivability in the car. That can make all of the difference around here. Cody Graham's jumping up into 3rd position, so that's a late improvement. Does knock Rivera down 1 position into 6th. But we are seeing some drivers towards the latter part of qualifying, finding some improvements. Michael Myers isn't one of those. He stays where he was, but a really good lap there for Grams to jump on to the inside of row number 2.
Keep in mind, Delta 2 with some new looking paint schemes tonight. They have added a new sponsor to their car, ILikeToRace.com, which is in the process of trying to build a racing-specific social media site, so to speak, for virtual and in real life. So several other drivers will be running with some new colors for those paint schemes here tonight. Keep an eye on those changes. Keeping an eye on Rivera. Now he's back to 6th. Cody Graham's jumping up in front of him amongst the pro drivers. This time by Rivera across the stripe, 1:15.7. His personal best is the 1:15.4s.
Yeah, a couple of tenths away, but Michael Myers, who's the next of the AM drivers we just saw, is not going to improve anytime soon with that big spin down at Graham Hill Bend, so no further change there as far as second place in the class is concerned. And what can James Malaire do? Well, he stays on a 1:15.4 as his fastest time, just under 3 tenths away from pole, misses the apex a bit through Paddock Hill Bend. And really difficult to pick this braking zone into Druids, the camber changing all the way through the corner, and then you drop downhill into Graham Hill Bend. Just take a little nibble out of the grass on the right hand side, the sun grip there, and use all of the runoff on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. I will never tire, Justin, of riding on board around this place, especially in a high downforce single seater. Full commitment the whole way through, and James will need that to try and improve upon second place.
One driver of note who has yet to set a time is not even in the paddock currently. You have to mention Andrew Wearing, currently 40th on your timing screens, has not come onto the racetrack since practice. He was amongst the top drivers in the point standings, so we may see some shuffling there. Remember, he was in the battle for the race lead last time out. Malaire this time around again hits the curbing, trying to make his way through the final sectors of the racetrack. See if he can try and find an extra 3 tenths in the next 2 minutes. Of note, Jordan Coates is looking to try and have another start. Keep it clean for the first time since Coda, currently up to 9th as well.
Yeah, I mean, every position on this grid is going to be key because, as we've said, not going to be easy to make that progress in the race. On board now with Hamilton Akabizi, who is in 12th position right now, then 11th within his class. But as we've said, it's overall finishing positions that make the difference in the points. So 12th place outright on the grid. Only needs to find another half a tenth or so to move into 11th. And he can't quite find it, and that is it. He bails on the next lap. That's his session done.
He actually jumped up to the 8th position with that. And Cabo Easy, the defending IRL 4 champion, jumping up the pylon. Take a look back at Hardman. And some different teams, interestingly, are trying to represent here tonight. We've seen a lot of domination from the Involve cars, from Wave Italy as of late. But teams like Britannia iSports, who have been PRL staples for the past couple of years, they're having some of the best qualifying runs this entire year so far tonight.
Good time to do that as well, heading into the middle part of the season. This is when you want to try and start building some momentum into the real meat of the championship. Andrew Hardman then through Sterling's corner, right out over the grass. Every time we cut to a driver, it looks like they're using a little bit more of the Brands Hatch circuit than perhaps they should be to try and extract the maximum lap time from their cars. And while Hardman only needs to find 100th of a second to move on to the second row of the grid, Andrew Hardman, though, 1:15.41 was a fractional improvement, but he will stay in 5th place.
Coming up to the final few seconds, only a few drivers have a shot to improve their times possibly. Final runs, amongst them trying to get across the stripe with a checker flag waving, is Steven Ritters. Ritters, currently in 11th spot, needs to find a time quicker than 1:15.7. No, 1:16.4 to close out his qualifying session. Only Michael Kofre, Max Preston, Hamilton Akabo Easy, Joey Haynes, and Ray Courtney have a chance to improve their times, if at all, to close out this session.
This is a pretty difficult track on tyres though, so I think if they've been out there for a few laps, they've probably had the best of their rubber now, particularly the left-hand side tyres. The front left actually takes a real pounding here through these high-speed right-handers out the back of the circuit, so perhaps not surprising to see a few drivers just struggling to find those improvements late in the session here, and they may now have to settle for the positions they've got. Perfect though for Michael Kofre on the pole position, and it looks as though he's got some pace in hand. He'll be looking to use that in the early stages of the race to build a bit of a gap and hopefully make his job as easy as possible.
There is one driver who may shuffle that. Keep an eye on the left side of the screen. Max Preston currently is crossing the stripe. He did not improve, so the times have all been locked in with 40 seconds to work with before we make our way to the 34-lap, 45-minute race tonight. See how the drivers play out in the F3 series this evening. Your keys to victory tonight when it comes to Brands Hatch as we see Juan Kofri get some practice in.
Well, staying out of trouble into the first corner and track position is key around here. If you've got a chance to try and use a bit of strategy to get that track position, that's certainly worth doing. And, you know, not being afraid to go for a risky move. This really is one of those tracks where you have to seize every opportunity to gain some ground and to make some forward progress. So for Michael Kofri on pole position, he needs to get off the line well, defend into the first corner and get into that rhythm as quickly as possible, whilst the rest of them know that any opportunity they have to attack, they're going to have to take it.
Michael Kofri last race had the chance to be a winning driver. He has a victory. He starts on the pole today for his second time this season. James Miller, with his best qualifying run in this season so far, starts in second with Grams and Preston the top four. Ibertania brings up Andrew Hardman in the iSports car in the top five with Rivera at the top M. Milwain, Akabuisi, Haynes amongst the Evolved clutter with Jordan Kuntz in 10th. Gritters and Majors the top 12. The second best driver in the AM class today starts 13th, Michael Myers alongside Michael Broomhead. Sebastian Kofri deep in the field tonight after his start of the season doing well. Dubé, San Diego, and Kofri the top 18. Robert Ridgway starts in 19th with Manuel Vargas, Ethan Tavitas, and Victor Chamorro, top 22. Also back in towards the rear end of the field, Potts and Scarari. Brett Thurman, David Lamont, along with Sergio Gonzalez-Maten, along with Spencer Ritzma, Swindells, and Ray Courtney, the top 30. Skipping on through the rest of the pack, Lego, Miller, Carter, De La Fuente, Pierre Richards, Smith, Quinn, and Brunner were the last drivers to set times. Two drivers did not set times today. Once again, Baroche and Waring not taking part today after he did not return during qualifying here tonight. Waiting for the last couple of drivers to join up to the starting grid. It's been a wild season so far in F3 competition. Consistency has been difficult to battle for and hard to come by. The question will be today, Andy, which driver finds the consistency for victory lane?
Yeah, an important race this for Michael Kofri and for Max Preston starting fourth. They need to take advantage of championship leader Sebastian starting deep in the field.
The drivers are ready. Are you ready? It's time for Formula 3 action from Brands Hatch. We're underway from the UK. Michael Kofri, decent launch. Molaire trying to keep it to the outside, making their way off through Paddock Hill Bend, heading off through the Pilgrim's Rise for the first time today. One driver, De La Fuente, starts from the pit lane, the rest of the field going 2 by 2 in through Druids up to the Graham Hill Bend.
So far, so good then for Michael Kofri. Got into Paddock Hill Bend first. He doesn't want to look back now. Needs to keep his eyes forward, get into that rhythm. It's such a rhythm circuit, this. And already looks starting to pull a few car lengths then over Molaire in second position, who really gave it a good go through Paddock Hill Bend. Just couldn't quite get the run. Drama at Surtees, though. 2 cars off the road.
The top AM driver, Alexander Rivera, after qualifying so well, collecting on the outside groove, getting loose and bringing one of the Evolved cars with them. That has broken things up a little bit, but not too much for Michael Kofri, Molaire and company. So Rivera, the first of the drivers to have to use the tow. The rest of the paddock all staying within 14 seconds of each other, heading to Sector 3.
Oh, what a shame for Rivera, though, after that really promising effort in qualifying, but cold tyres perhaps playing a part. We'll see if we can dig out the replay. Either way, he is in big trouble. Michael Kofri, though, 8 tenths to the good already as they blast back into sight through Clearways and Clark Curve and out along that start-finish straight. 1 lap completed of 34 here on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and Michael Kofri already delivering upon the pace that he promised in qualifying.
What a qualifying performance you can say for Nox Esports, a 2-3 in the session. Molaire and Grams, though, starting to lose touch of the race leader, Max Preston. Not able to find a way to poke around yet either. So Molaire nearly 1 second back already, 8 tenths at the stripe.
And Sebastian Kofri only 1 position gain, 14th at the end of the first lap. Here's the replay then of what happened to Rivera. Well, he's already having the moment look ahead and really unfortunate to get collected. He might have got away with that without any damage, but the other car came in onto the scene and just could not avoid him.
So some troubles indeed. Also, you see towards the middle backpack with some of the drivers cutting through the grass. Also, See how difficult things can be, different braking marks? Sometimes you are sent to Narnia.
Yeah, that braking zone at Surtees is really, really tricky because you're braking on a turn and you've got to be careful not to dip a wheel on the grass. That was Brett Thurman, I think, number 69, who got it wrong. Yeah, if the car ahead brakes a bit earlier than you're expecting, that can easily lead to a little bit of nose-to-tail contact. But the leaders continuing on their way. That lead gap suddenly shooting down. Look, Miller is right with Michael Kofri now. So we've got a very close battle at the front. And in fact, Miller now dropping down.
Well, that's because Miller has gone off the racetrack. Miller, after closing up the gap, has lit the gap on fire. After the sand trap, Miller has shuffled back to 8th.
Well, it looked like he'd caught Michael and perhaps got a bit excited, carried too much speed into Paddock Hill Bend. Really bumpy braking zone into Paddock as well. So again, easy to snatch a brake and run on. What a shame, though. He will have it all to do now, having rejoined in 8th position. It's going to be almost impossible to gain all of that time back, you would imagine, given how tricky it is to pass here.
We're already having some problems. Has spun off the racetrack, who's running in the 20s. And away it goes. As a result, Skrelly now running dead last of those still running. Only Rivera with troubles on the opening laps of this race tonight. So now it's... Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, that Graham Hill Bend moment, very easy to do. You can run very wide over that AstroTurf on the exit of the corner, but if you dip a wheel beyond that onto the grass, then that is what's going to happen. Paddock Hill Bend, there's going to be an attack there by the looks of it. That is probably the best place to pass here at Brands Hatch. Get that slipstream along the pit straight, and you can definitely, if you're feeling brave, have a go under braking.
Michael Broomhead is feeling very brave. This, after all, is for the top spot in terms of the AM point standing scores. Broomhead right side, Myers park set. Broomhead gets hit. Sebastian Kofre goes sliding. There goes Juan Kofre with them. 2 of the Kofres collected. One of the Britannia cars off the circuit. Several of your top drivers in the point standings get stacked up in one corner.
Oh, that is the danger of qualifying badly around a track like Brands Hatch. Sebastian Kofre getting caught up in an incident that he shouldn't have been no part of at all. I said at the top of the this part of the broadcast, Justin, the other drivers hoping for him to have a bad race. It looks like that's going to happen here tonight.
You see some of the drivers still trying to find a way around, including, in fact, some of the Britannia cars. Both Sebastian and Juan having to take tows as a result of the trouble. Some drivers like Eric Dubé also communicating about this, so some of the drivers are sliding off the circuit. So this could be a tough sequence here with all this damage. Broomhead trying to go all the way around before he takes the mandatory repair.
And somewhere in all of that, Michael Myers has seized a very good lead in the AM class, hasn't he, as well? 7 seconds or so ahead of Victor Camoro in second place. So that midfield pack really shuffling around as it all started to kick off on this 5th lap of the race. And we've got cars littering the side of the track everywhere, Justin.
Well, Spencer Ritzma finds his way around the side of the racetrack. That was coming out of Clark Curb to the Brabham Straight. So Ritzma now back to 34th. Take a look at how the trains are playing out mid-pack. Again, this is around 14th or so on back, give or take, around the midst of this train. Then amongst those trying to close up, Le Mans looking towards center in car 49 tonight. Le Mans so far up 10 positions, in fact. One of at least 7 in double-digit positions gained in the span of about 4.5 laps.
Yeah, and that's put him into 3rd place in the AM class, and he'll be having his sights very much set on Victor Camoro. Has to find a way past Manuel Vargas first. Someone off in the background.
That's Martin. There goes the 55 KFM Motorsport car. Done well this season in terms of speed. Another off track, though, shuffles the points tally for the AM side, at least, in the running order.
We're quite proud here in the UK that we don't make it easy for drivers. Our racetracks are very unforgiving, with perhaps the exception of Silverstone being a modern-day Formula 1 track. If you get it wrong around a place like Brands Hatch, like I said, you're straight onto the grass, into the gravel, and actually lucky on that occasion not to find the barriers as well. But you're going so quickly around Brands Hatch that the tiniest misjudgment, you only have to miss your braking point or your turning point by a fraction of a second, and you're probably going to find yourself exploring the scenery.
I'm not sure if you've met Paul Smith yet in terms of discussions. He really likes to talk about, though, that certain people here do not like it when you destroy the grass here at this racetrack. Virtually or real.
Yes, you do get an angry letter from Jonathan Palmer should you take up too much of his grass at any of his circuits, but Jonathan, who owns a number of racetracks in the UK these days, he does a good job of presenting them as well as possible, and I do like to think that if he ever does tune into an iRacing broadcast around one of his tracks, he gets a little bit angry if he sees a driver mowing the lawn. He's got some very, very good and well-paid gardeners to do that job, doesn't need the help of the drivers.
Do keep an eye on Olivier Legault, who's in 20th, watching Hayes try to make a move on Richard Swindells. And a bit of curb taken for Hayes, still making the move, so this may set things up for Legault. Also bunching up is Davidas. Davidas trying to go to the left side, up the Brown Straight. Lots of smoke kicked up. 1-2 drivers are off the track of the left side and the right side. Manuel Vargas amongst them. They drive on by. Le Mans was also in it.
Yeah, I thought I spotted Le Mans dropping down the timing screen there, so not sure what happened. As I said, Paddock Hill Bend, probably the best place to try and launch an attack. That's what happened. An attack was launched, but from a long way back. And again, you're carrying so much speed in there that if the other driver doesn't know what you're trying to do, it's almost certainly going to end in contact. And at least one of those cars, I fear, yes, Le Mans towing back to the pits. So his car too badly damaged to continue. It is the best place to pass, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to do it.
So now in lap 7, and the incident points, you have to say, are starting to build up. Of note, Davidas in this pack has just gone off the track. That allows Legault and company to build up. I will say amongst those in this grouping, third in this train, Tarpio Richards, we mentioned, is top 5 of the pro standings. He's in this choo-choo train.
Yes, he is actually, isn't he? Yeah, very much part of that fight. Speaking of a fight, I think we could have a fight for the race lead again here, because every time I think Michael Kofri is pulling away, he seems to get reeled in. It was by James Moller earlier on before James threw himself off the track at Paddock, and now it's Cody Grams. Cody Grams has been lapping consistently quicker than Michael, 2/10 quicker on the previous lap, and you can see he's now weaving around behind the race leader, trying to distract him, trying to force that mistake. It is game on here for the race lead.
Cody Grams, just a second start this season, already 2 DNSs, not in contention per se for the championship this season so far. It's been impressive, though, the consistency we have seen from Grant whenever he's made starts, though, in this campaign and in this respective car. When he has made starts, he's usually in the conversation for the top 5. They pulled away by nearly 3 seconds already over Max Preston.
Yeah, Preston 2.7 back. He's got about a second in hand over Hardman in 4th position. Top 10 drivers right now, all running in the pro category. So Michael Myers, who you see is topping the AM class. They are the ready purple numbered cars. Well, he's 11th overall. Victor Moro second in that class in 13th. So they still have a pro between them. Right now, though, all eyes on this fight for the lead. Cody Grams having caught up to Michael Kofri. Where does he make the pass? I just don't think he's got enough of a pace advantage for this to be an easy overtake. It will require, I think, a mistake from the race leader to make it happen.
And that's been a little difficult to come by when you let Michael Kofri in clean air, though. When you battle, there's the chance we've seen at times. Of note, Jacob Majors has just had problems in car 72 from the top 10. Appears to be a technical issue. So outside of that, though, drivers have settled down. Vargas and Le Mans have both finished their toes to be able to get their mandatory repairs finished on their cars as well. So let's take a look at how some of these packs go. We haven't mentioned some of the drivers in terms of some of these packs. Brad Miller. He's had a lot of troubles this season, in the past couple, in fact. Tonight, though, especially with the veteran spotter on the box and Michael Overbay, keeping it clean. Overbay, his spotter throughout this season.
Yeah, Miller running 6th in class as well, so a pretty decent night for him so far. He's within touching distance almost of Ayrton Smith. He does have Marc-Andre Larouche between them, who is a pro driver, but good to see that some drivers who have had perhaps not the ideal start to the season are coming good here at Brands Hatch, probably one of the most challenging circuits on the calendar, so a good time to find some form. and perhaps a little bit of good luck. We've seen already tonight, haven't we, Justin, that it's not always a driver's own mistakes that can catch them out. It can sometimes just be a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So good to see that Miller has managed to avoid that so far. Hopefully he continues to do so for the next 24 laps.
Confirmations in. Major's technical issue has now fallen down the pylon. Driver should be receiving the in-sim confirmation right this second. So now we are down to, on the lead lap, about 31 drivers again. Key major effort, remember, right now for some is do not crash the car. You can score points. Just as I said that, Jake Potts, Brett Thurman, and several others crashed their cars.
Oh dear. Oh yes, that is a good one. That car appearing from absolutely nowhere on the exit of Surtees, and then a secondary accident as some others perhaps weren't willing to lift off the throttle to avoid the first incident. Driving on the grass flat out, never likely to end well. But yeah, that quite what happened to trigger that, I'm not so sure. But it's taken at least 3 cars out of contention.
Jordan Kuntz, meanwhile, he's having a really strong race today. Again, just the second start of the campaign in car 99 for the longest time. A lot of his focus went on to the Road to Pro side in the NASCAR competition. Competed with teams like Proximity Racing over the years. And now, riding as a privateer for this series, still carrying the old Proximity Racing colors up to 6th position. He had similar speed at Coda before his incidents there.
Absolutely, 6th place then for Jordan. He's just been sort of picking his way through some of the melees around him, hasn't he? And again, finding himself in 6th place now, perhaps not quite able to tag along with the top 5, but doesn't look to be under too much pressure right now from Hamilton Akabizi, who is just a couple of car lengths back. And in fact, Hamilton himself under pressure now from James Miller. James recovering from that moment at this corner, Paddock Hill Bend, about 6 or 7 laps ago. Doesn't make the move under braking, but James Miller running now in 8th position. I think he's only gained 1 place since he went off, so finding it tough going now to get that track position back.
I have to say, when it comes to Okabe, there's a lot of potential when it comes to the youngster in car 7, defending IR04 champion. From what we've seen in this season, Andy, Okabe still getting used to this car. His expertise is in the previous car. But with the open side, getting a first taste of it again, he is below the age of 18 in the second car and train. It's a very high ceiling possibly for Akabe.
Yeah, so much young talent in sim racing, isn't there? And it's fantastic now that they, these youngsters have the opportunity to really prove themselves in cars and on tracks that they would never normally get the chance to drive in real life. And it's really nice from a real world perspective as well to see more of these youngsters making the transition from sim racing into a real racing car. And who knows, we could see that from Hamilton in the future. But he's running in 7th place right now in this race. Looks to have the track figured out, but just can't quite figure a way past Jordan Kuntz ahead. But Hamilton might now have the chance, because Jordan made a big mistake at Paddock Hill Bend. Akabizi knows this is his chance, and interestingly, Jordan did not defend into Druids. He will try and hang it around the outside to get the inside line for Graham Hill Bend. Hamilton gets a bit sideways on traction, and now he takes the wide line in, tight line out to try and get the overlap towards Surtees.
Near 3 wide for a second. James Miller trying to pick up spots. A little bit of a send back from Akabe, but able to hold on the defense as they go up the Pilgrims drop up to Hawthorne Bend. Akabe trying to look left, nearly peeled Kuntz off the line. Miller forced to check up as well. Steven Ritter's closing into the pack as well. They zip their way off through the Derek Minter straight off to Westfield Bend.
A good example through that battle of how important momentum is around Brands Hatch. The inside line isn't always the place to be. Side by side at Westfield, at Sheen certainly isn't the place to be. And Akabe, running wide over the grass. James Miller taking advantage of that mistake. And, well, Hamilton going from on the attack at the start of the lap to actually losing a place a bit later on. But yeah, sometimes going on the inside line into places like Paddock and Druids and Surtees isn't actually the quickest way through the corner, and that means the drivers really have to think carefully about where they place their car when they're trying to gain ground.
On the replay, in fact, you can see there's a lot of contact. That's live play amongst those with Swindell's Chamorro. Also involved was the 17, LaRoche, who started at the back, and now another car crashes. Steven Renner's another one of the atomic cars in the wall.
They are dropping like flies now, aren't they? And I think this is all being caused by just taking a few too many liberties with track limits, running wide onto the grass. Yeah, that's exactly what happens out of Westfield Corner, and that is the worst place to be stationary. The other cars coming at full commitment over a blind crest with no chance of avoiding them. But yeah, just no room for error here. I think we'll see the same thing here out of Druid. Just runs a bit wide, catches the AstroTurf wrong, and off into the barriers.
Lots of mandatory repairs this lap. And for those a part of Atomic Racing, a lot of their contingent drivers now been collected. Here's a look on board from Hello. And there is LaRoche.
Makes you wince, doesn't it, even watching from the safety of the virtual commentary box. That was scary stuff, and a driver's worst nightmare, Justin. I'm sure you've experienced that. I have as well. You come around a blind corner, absolutely flat out, and suddenly the road is blocked. Nothing really you can do in that situation.
So that leaves just one driver with no mandatory repairs, by the way, for Atomic Racing's contingency of teams. Robert Ridgway, 71, who is up to 11th. Taking a look still of the involved cars in the train. This is Ozzy Milwayne. Milwayne, some solid speed over the years. Milwayne so far 10th in the point standings entering tonight.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a real shuffling of the points after this race. We've documented the problems for Sebastian Kofri, but also Max Preston, second in the championship. He's had some troubles, and so Michael Kofri, if he can hang on to win the race, might actually do enough to move into the championship lead. He was 30 points behind Sebastian coming into this one, and if he can hang on to even first or second, he should be able to do enough to move ahead.
Just as we looked away, by the way, Hardman just looped in front of Milwayne, and there's another loopy.
Yeah, that might have been Jordan Kuntz losing ground as well, I think, and on the exit of Sterling's that was. And amazingly, no more contact, getting back into first gear and on the way. But yeah, quite a few drivers finding difficulties as we head into the middle part of the race.
So that opens up the door for a Caboese to get some points, looking for 6th overall. Approaching the halfway point to Caboese. Still boxed in through Druids. And to quickly touch upon one more time with the Caboese part, when you just even look up the name, there's a lot of expectations, there's a lot of hope in the family in regards to him in terms of his ability and his goal to make it to the top flight in open wheel competition in the globe.
For sure, and this is the best place to learn your craft, isn't it? Learn not only how to drive a racing car, but how to race. Racecraft is such a huge part of being a racing driver. It's not just about going quickly and being able to handle the car. You've got to be able to race wheel to wheel, and he's proving actually that he's got a very sensible head on his shoulders right now. He's been behind Andrew Hardman here for a little while, hasn't made a really aggressive move. I think he's quicker, but he's just biding his time, waiting for the moment. He almost throws it away as I say that, running wide, coming out of Sterling's corner. But yeah, sensible driving so far from Hamilton. I hope that continues.
See how the rest of this plays out for Caboese tonight. It's been an intriguing night. A lot of the drivers of note, Kofre and Grams, are now 1 second apart. Preston still third, Milwayne Molaire still amongst the top spot. Myers, with all the problems for the other round drivers, has an 18-second cushion. And yes, that was Manuel Vargas at the side of the road. Robert Ridgway has also just entered the pit lane for the first scheduled stop of the entire race, halfway.
Yeah, already a busy pit lane, but they are, as you said, not mandatory pit stops being served. They are repairs being made, but I think we'll see a few drivers now choosing to head for the pit lane because of the difficulty to overtake on track here at Brands Hatch. Pit strategy could be crucial. If you're being held up by somebody and you think you can go quicker in clean air, get into the pit lane now, hope that you get out into that clean air, and then start setting some really quick lap times. This could really shuffle the pack.
Looking at DeVita's, meanwhile, he's had some spins, some slides, some cuts to the grass, nearly one there. DeVita's, keep in mind, is still quietly in 17th. And there may have been a problem just now for Michael Myers. Yes, indeed, Michael Myers has crashed. Myers, the AM leader, is out.
Oh, he was the comfortable AM leader as well. This is what happened, and yet again just takes a bit too much of that runoff area, gets onto the grass, and the barriers come up extremely quickly on the exit of Westfield corner. What a shame. He had no pressure, had a comfortable class lead in hand, but you don't even have to be pushing that hard around here. The slightest lapse in concentration, the slightest misjudgment, and it can end your race.
So now it's Ray Courtney over the mighty John Quinn for the top AM spots. Those drivers are 10th and 11th overall now. Amongst these drivers grouped together on track, making their way down the straightaways right now, Pierre Richards, who's up to a race high 12, up 23. Lego up 18. Brad Miller up 18.
Impressive to see some drivers really gaining lots of positions. A lot of that, I think, just down to the high attrition rate that we've seen in this race. So many drivers out of the race or in the pit lane with repairs to be made. I suppose that's given a few freebies, but you know, there is a lot to be said just for surviving a race like this, and those who have made the progress have done so by keeping it on the track, haven't they? Interesting just to take a note of the leaders again here. The gap creeping out now. They've been trading lap times, Michael Kofri and Cody Grams, until the last lap or so, when Michael has started to pull the pin. And I don't think that's a coincidence, Justin. I think he knows he's getting into his pit window and wants to try and build that gap now, because he doesn't really know once he pits where he's going to come out. There is a chance he could come out in traffic, and he wants to give himself the biggest advantage at this portion of the race that he can.
The reason, by the way, he wasn't quicker the last lap, Tavares Corrali was riding the left side of the racetrack through Druids. So a bit of lap traffic was the factor there, it appears. Now Pierre Richards, they go building up the draft, electing to be patient, really letting off. In fact, Pierre Richards absolutely sends it up to Pilgrim's Rise.
Yeah, and it is hard to follow in these cars around some of the high-speed corners as well, so that possibly played into that too. You really don't do a lot of braking into Paddock Hill Bend in an F3 car, and that means that you're really reliant on that aerodynamic grip, which just falls away from you when you're running in the turbulent air of a car ahead. So that's why you see the gaps ebb and flow slightly through the high-speed stuff. It's hard to follow. You've really got to work hard then through some of the slower corners to gain that time back.
The rhythm building up too in the other pack that's kept close. Malaire still leading this grouping for 5th. Hardman, Akaboeasy electing to ride behind them for now. They're running in the 116s now. Not too much fall off as to be expected with the fuel burn again tonight. The clouds, though, similar to what we've seen at the end of qualifying, are cooling back down the grip for the racetrack, or rather the temps on the track.
That is going to help the drivers getting into the latter part of the race. Just had a lead change in AM, and that is because our class leader, Ray Courtney, has pitted. I was just about to mention that John Quinn was catching Ray. Well, there is Ray, the Scuderia Delta driver, up on the jacks, gets going again, and that was an interesting timed pit stop because he was starting to be caught by John Quinn, who temporarily takes over the class lead, but of course still owes us that mandatory stop himself.
If I seen that right, though, Ray Courtney may have accidentally gone on the jack. So we might have to take a look back if we can as we look at some of the other packs here. Courtney had an 8-second pit stop. The normal for a top off at that point is 5.
Well, the car definitely was on the jacks, actually. I made mention of that, so you're right. That was a bit of a mistake. We've had, meanwhile, a pit stop for our race leader, Michael Kofri in, Ozzy Milwane in as well. James Malaire has made a pit stop, so lap number 20 clearly was the time that most of them planned to make their way in.
Maybe actually taking tires there.
Well, he'll have a grip advantage, I suppose, but you're right, the time lost in pit lane, that could be costly.
Pit stops already completed for Michael Kofri, James Malaire, Hamilton, Akaboeasy. Milwane pit the previous lap and held on to a 2-second cushion over these cars as well. So Cody Graham's electing to go for the overcut amongst the race leaders. Malaire keeping the pressure ahead of Akaboeasy to try and break away. Nearly spins it around as Akaboeasy stays within the draft range.
Yeah, what would be interesting to know is whether Michael Kofri came out in clean air. If there was any lap traffic around him, that could have an effect. But I think the Cody Graham staying out, that really was the only thing he could do. If he followed Kofri down the pit lane, well, you're not going to gain anything that way. You might as well try it, stay out, hope that Michael has a bad pit stop, a bad outlap, gets stuck in some traffic, and now Cody does bail for the pit lane. So this is perhaps the pivotal moment of the race, because Cody Graham hasn't been able to get around Michael Kofri on the track. Can he do it in the pit lane?
There's Grams, as we mentioned, not expecting on the jacks for a normal scheduled stop. 5.4 seconds for Grams. Take a look again at Malera Kawawizi. Oh, and something may be close for that race lead. Look at the left timing screen. The gap has stayed in the hand of Michael Kofri, but it has gone down by a few tenths of a second with the overcut. In fact, by a full second the gap has.
Yeah, that must have been very close on pit exit. Pit exit is right on the inside line at Paddock Hill Bend, and Cody would have been hoping that he could have just got to the apex of Paddock first and forced Michael to sit behind him. He was ahead for a brief moment. Kofri clearly able to sweep around the outside. This is key though. Cody Grams, he's gained that time back, like you said, that he lost in traffic a couple of laps ago. Now, can he put the pressure on? Can he find a way past Michael to steal the lead away? He's got just over a dozen laps to try and do it. Can he stay with him? That's the first question.
It's going to be the huge question on his mind. Cody Grams looking to try and break through tonight. Michael Kofri looking to try and build on to what's been strong on speed for his team this year. But all scheduled pit stops have been completed with Devil Fuente coming in this time. How things have now settled. John Quinn in the M lead by 4 seconds after the tire snafu for Courtney. Half a second the difference between Kofri and Grams for the top spot in the pro class. For reference, the top running AM car is currently 11th overall, Courtney 12th.
Yeah, like you said, 4.6 seconds between those two, and then third place in the class, Sergio Gonzalez Martin, all the way down in 17th. So quite a gap there between them all. But remember, it's overall finishing positions that matter for the AMs. So the fact that Quinn and Courtney are several places ahead of the rest of their classmates will be pleasing them for sure. They're on for a good point day here potentially. Bad exit out of Surtees there for Michael Kofri, and Cody Graham sees his chance. He's in the tow. He's got the momentum, but you can't really pass into Hawthorne, and he has to sit behind for now.
And going to get alongside as they go off to the corner again, heading up to Dingle Bell. Machines. So now how do you play this if you're Grams? Because this is about the closest he's gotten here. How do you play it?
Well, he really doesn't want to waste this opportunity. They won't come at him that frequently, these chances to attack Kofri. He's close coming out of clearways, just needs to try and fill the mirrors of the race leader, weave around a bit in the braking zone, make him think that the attack could come at any moment, and with a bit of luck, that might force a mistake out of the race leader. But that is not going to come easy. It's so hard to stay closely tucked up behind the car ahead, as you saw there through Paddock Hill Bend, the gap growing by a couple of tenths. So Cody Grams will be hoping that wasn't his last chance to go on the attack.
You can almost visually see him screaming in his head, tight, 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 with the arrow push, yes.
So frustrating. It really is the worst feeling in the world, because I think he is quicker than Kofri. If you take that dirty air, that aero push into account, he's still staying with Michael. So imagine if he was ahead, he'd probably be able to pull away, but that is not going to be easy. And of course, it's not lost on Michael either how important track position is. So he is not going to relinquish the lead without a real fight. I think we're in for a good battle here, though. They're very evenly matched. 10 laps to go, and I don't think Cody Grams is going anywhere just yet.
Off the track goes Michael Kofri. Cody Grams goes for the lead. Michael Kofri has dominated all race long, and now Grams looks to take advantage of the left side. Up through Clark Curb, Grams goes for the diamond. Michael Kofri holds on to the problem straight. Michael Kofri with a big-time save. Grams with a big-time run. Up through Paddock Hill Bend to the right side to take the race lead away.
And he is going to do it. Cody Grams into the lead of the race. The mistake did come. The pressure did tell. And now it's down to Michael Kofri to try and hang on to the coattails of Cody Grams. I thought that Cody had actually given up the opportunity there, because as Kofri went off, and I'm sure we'll get a replay of this soon, I don't think Cody knew where he was going to go, so he backed right out of it, hit the brakes, didn't take immediate advantage, but a couple of corners later he was able to find a way through. They are both on the limit though. This is great stuff.
Now this is the true test to see if Grams can pull away here. This is the first time he's had clean space over Michael Kofre. Here's a look from what Grams seen.
Just see that he braked really early into Sterling's. He didn't know where that other car was going to go, and at this point he's probably kicking himself. That was his chance to get through, but he played the situation beautifully, forced Kofre to defend into clearways, got the better exit, got the slipstream, sells the dummy to the outside, dives to the gap on the inside. That was inch perfect stuff, and Cody Grams deserves the race lead. That was really good racecraft.
Now it's down to about 9 laps to go on the racetrack. How will this play in the next few moments or so? Grams nearly off the track again. This has been a bit of a struggle spot, remember, in terms of how tight it can be. Kofre stays lined up half a second. They have about 3 seconds to play with over Max Preston.
Yeah, they've got that gap, haven't they? But interestingly, Cody Grams is not building a gap over Kofre, so I confidently predicted a few laps ago that if he got the lead, he'd be able to pull away. I'm being proven very much wrong, not for the first time and surely not for the last here tonight. Cody Grams struggling to make the break. He's weaving around down Pilgrim's Drop, trying to just break that slipstream, but Michael Kofre going nowhere for the time being.
Now, Kofre, you can tell, is now starting to really feel the effects of the aero wash. So now, how do you bounce back if you're Michael Kofre?
Well, that's going to be difficult, isn't it? Like you said, he's struggling with that aero wash, and he's not used to it. He's been out in front all race long, so his car now is handling completely differently than it has been through the first 24, 25 laps of the race. And you can see it's just not quite holding the road as well as he needs. I do wonder whether maybe Cody Grams has got this made now, but we've seen how easy it is to make mistakes here. So many drivers have fallen foul of the tight confines of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and Michael just needs to stay as close as he can, keep the pressure on, and don't let Cody Grams relax.
This will be a huge day when it comes to the team side. Possibly an issue amongst the top 10 drivers, by the way. Ayrton Smith, one of the M drivers. And look at the rejoin. Oh boy.
Oh dear, yes, that was not the best way to get back out onto the racetrack, was it? And I think it was like the 43 car that unfortunately was collected there. A bit of netcode, but they were going to make contact anyway. It is difficult though when you get out onto the grass and the gravel. Anyone who has raced on iRacing before will know that there is zero grip. It's like driving on ice, especially on slick tyres as these drivers are, and so it can be difficult to control the car on that rejoin. It possibly looked a bit worse than it was, that one.
The reason, or rather the driver, I think is the right terming to say, was the driver who ended up having to contact Jordan Kuntz. Kuntz having to take a drive-through penalty as a result of the incident points gathered up. We take a look again, the leaders. Incident points have to start becoming a factor too for a couple of these drivers, especially with how tight the margins are. 13 incident points tonight.
Yeah, that's always a tricky one around Brands Hatch too, because as we're seeing, at certain parts of the track, you can use a lot of runoff area. So Graham Hill Bend there, that's completely legal. You can run all 4 wheels over the edge of the curve. In iRacing, that is fine. But if you go a little bit too far on some corners, you'll very easily pick up an off-track. And those 1Xs, they add up over time. And this is a long race, 34 laps. You're starting now to run out of tyres. You're starting to get a bit desperate in your battles that you're having. Very, very easy to push the envelope a little bit too much on track limits, and a penalty will ruin your day for sure.
Absolutely could mess up your day with how things could play out, to say the very minimum. Cody Grams, keep in mind, looking for what will be his first victory since the last campaign, where he had a couple opportunities in this car on the Thursday nights. Now he's 6 laps away from another W. His teammate James Belair has just had problems with the top 5 meanwhile. So Belair has fallen down the pylon after a slide. The other car that's done really well for his team tonight still dictates the tempo. Here's a look at his teammate Belair.
Oh, big lose through Sheen Curve, rolling back onto the track. That's heart-stopping stuff, and thankfully not collected by anyone, but that was a strange loss of rear traction. He didn't go anywhere near the grass, just the rear of the car stepped out over that crest, and around he went, a sign perhaps that he's starting to run out of grip, and I'm sure he's not the only one. Tell you what though, I'm not giving this victory to Cody Grams just yet, because Michael Kofri, a lap ago, got the gap back down to 3/10. If he can do that again and maybe take advantage of a mistake from Cody, he might still have one more shot at getting that race lead back.
Going to be the huge question on some people's minds. Keep in mind with how things are playing out, he looks, if he can find a way to break through tonight, to jump into the top 10 all-time, Michael Kofri, in series victories on Thursday nights and open wheel competition, the PRL. He has 5 laps to close this gap back up. About 5 seconds to buffer, 5 laps to go.
Through Paddock Hill Bend they go, and the gap just opening out slightly, but we've seen that the smallest of fumbles can cost you 3 or 4 tenths of a second in one corner. So Cody Grams driving under incredible pressure here. And in this situation, Justin, you'll always find that there are some drivers who like to lead and some who like to be on the attack. I personally hate to be in the lead of a race at this point. It's when I make all of my mistakes. I would much rather be in Michael's position in some ways, trying to chase down the race leader. But Cody looking like he's pretty settled in the lead and so far not making mistakes.
By the way, I've just passed out Pierre Richards, who's gone off the racetrack. Michael Kofri has lost about a second on the racetrack in terms of the draft now. Looks like you're right on the teller sign. Grams and Kofri, the 2 quickest cars in the race. Grams is now setting his personal best of the night.
Is seriously impressive at this point in the race to be able to do that. Like you said, they haven't been changing tyres, these front runners, in the pit stop. So yeah, seriously impressive pace that he's got, and doing it under pressure. That's the thing. He's responded to the pressure. He's built up now the biggest lead that he's had since he hit the front a few laps ago. And I think Michael Kofri might now have just either settled for second place, or perhaps he's dropping back to try and just cool the tyres off for one last run at this. Let's wait and see.
With a difficult balance as Kofri really snappy. I'm not sure if that's cooling.
No, and he'll certainly be getting a bit hot under the collar, the back of the car, stepping out again into Surtees look. So yeah, I think he's had the best of his tyres, and that could be all she wrote now. I think Cody Grams has this one in the bag. He just needs to not let the concentration drop. Just because he's got a lead, he still needs to keep the concentration up and make sure he stays between those white lines.
A one-lap car for now within a solid range. Spencer Retzma. Everybody else is at least 50 car lengths plus down the racetrack, and at least 2 corners ahead. Coming up to 3 to go. Brett Courtney, Jordan Kuntz have also closed up. For reference, Lego, Tavitas, Miller, Scarelli in terms of the other packs. Coming to the closing stints, 3 laps to go, 1.5 seconds the gap. Grams another time in the 1:15 bracket. Here's a look at DeVitas in his fight with Lego, 14th, 15th overall.
Another big tank slapper out of Graham Hill-Bend there. They're all running out of rear tyres, aren't they? And that's surprising around here. It's normally the front left that takes the beating, but I think through the tighter sections they're perhaps spinning the rear wheels up a little bit, and that is causing them a loss of grip here towards the end of the race. But Ethan not giving up hope here of moving up one more position. He's running 15th of, I think, 22 cars still running. The attrition rate in this race has been enormous. There are only about 16 cars on the lead lap, I reckon. So just getting to the end of this race in some ways is a real achievement.
22 drivers remaining running too. Keep in mind, a lot of drivers, in fact, who DNF today may possibly get points, but we'll have to see. Some of them may not have reached the certain thresholds. Tavita is looking to find the threshold to make a pass. Up to Paddock Hill Bend? No. Although he's trying to keep it pedal down, let go with a better pedal through.
Yeah, Tavitas had half a chance there, but you heard him just lift off the throttle going into paddock. Didn't want to commit to a 50-50 move at that stage. If they were fighting for a podium, he might have gone for it, but yeah, right now one eye on the checkered flag for sure. Takes a wider line into Surtees, and look, that gives him much more speed through the apex, and this now is a real chance. He's got the slipstream down Pilgrim's Drop. I'm sure that we'll see a defensive line from the leg. Oh no, leaves the gap on the inside, and Ethan Davitas needed no second invitation. He slips through on the inside line and gets the place.
Ethan Davitas up 7 spots tonight. Some spins early, able to bounce back now to 14th. They're coming for these drivers to 2 laps to go this time. The leader's about a lap and a half to work with as they battle as the last cars in the lead lap. The air drivers fighting, De La Fuente, Miller, and Scarali have already lost a lap this race. But what a race it's been in some of these circumstances. You talked about it, the attrition huge tonight. If you survived all the way through the lines of the racetrack and got to this point, the white flag this time around, you likely scored some points. Graham's up to the point.
I'd have to say I didn't know what to expect from this race. I kind of thought we might be in for a bit of a procession. F3 cars, Brands Hatch, not always a great combination for good racing, but the drivers have proven us wrong here tonight. They've put on a real show, particularly Cody Grams and Michael Kofrey. Could easily have been a 3-way fight, couldn't it? James Malaire was up there challenging Michael in the early stages before he went off the road, and ultimately it ended up in a 2-horse race, and Cody Grams, after the pit stop, putting the pressure on Michael Kofrey, forced the mistake, and perhaps managed his tyres a little bit better too. I think that's been one of the other things that has really helped Cody here in the last 10 laps.
Major thing to know, just got this note actually from one of the Delta 2 drivers, for Scuderia Delta 2 should say. Ray Courtney, second in M class, has a strong chance by the end of this race. Things stay the way they are to potentially take the M lead too. So a lot of shuffling for the point standings for Pro and M today. In the case of Cody Grams though, this season has started off quietly. Last year, he made a show of his performances. Now, for the 3rd time, Cody Grams wins in the PRL's F3 Series. Michael Kofrey second, and Max Preston rounding out the top 3 tonight.
Yeah, important points there for Max Preston and Michael Kofrey, taking advantage of Sebastian Kofrey non-finishing, one of many drivers to non-finish here today, and they will both be able to really close in, perhaps even move ahead of him in the championship standings. John Quinn, meanwhile, on his way to an AM class victory, half a lap from home now, and he has put in a really good performance. Took advantage of Ray Courtney's fumble in the pit lane, but he was catching Ray anyway at that point, and likely would have given him a real fight for the class win. He's now just 1 corner away from taking it.
It was a race of survival in AM class in particular. Just a couple of the drivers from that class finishing on the lead lap. John Quinn survives to give Rookie Esports the victory in AM, and a top 10 overall. John Quinn wins the M class. Ray Courtney behind him, 13th overall. In turn, unofficially taking the top spot in AM's point standings, pending reviews. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results tonight. Grams, Michael Kofrey, Preston, and Milway in the top 4. Hardman able to put up his best run of the season for Britannia iSports in the top 5. Hamilton Kabuisi picks up a 6th place finish. Malaire, after several spins, does still hold on to the 7th spot. Cars were very quick tonight from Knox. Joey Haynes, after some early troubles, still picks up a top 8. Ridgway, Quinn, the top 10, Quick, the top AM driver. Where in the world is Kevin San Diego? He was 11th tonight. Kuntz, Courtney, Tavitas, Lego, the last of the lead lap. Ritzma, Pierre, Richards, Miller, De La Fuente were all 1 lap down. Le Bon, 20th, 2 laps down. Raleigh, Martin, along with Smith. Wards near double digits down. Ritters was double-digit laps down, with Myers, Vargas, Brewer, Chamorro, Swindells, and LaRoche. A lot of drivers from the AM point standings taking hits tonight. 31st went to Potts, Thurman, Carter, Majors, along with Broomhead, Sebastian, and Juan Kofrey, along with Eric Dubé and Alexander Rivera after such a strong qualifying run yet again. DNFs, his 2nd straight DNF, in his third race in the 4 rounds complete with no points on the board. In the end, though, Cody Grams, for the first time this season, makes it to victory lane. First time since last season we've seen Grams do really strong to the Nox cars. Cody, tonight you break through for your first victory this campaign after 2 straight DNSs. How does it feel? Nox seem to have the speed tonight.
It feels good. I've never raced F3 here until this week, and I put in about 150 laps of practice, and I was actually still learning a few lines during the race, and I finally got them down to where I could be consistent lap after lap. And it was a pretty good battle with Michael there. I was just trying to pace him, and I seen he made a few mistakes at the beginning, so I thought maybe he was pushing a little too hard, so I figured I'd wait him out. And he got it together, and so we went in for pit. I didn't speed this time, so that was nice, and almost passed him on my in lap, but I didn't quite get it. And then he had a little bit of a moment there at the end of the lap, and I was worried he was going to come back onto the track, and I didn't want him to collect me. And luckily he got it together, before sliding all the way across the track, and we both finished the race.
Going to say tonight, as well as a team, it was your best race of the campaign so far. How would you describe tonight with Nox Esports after, for you guys entering tonight, you scored a race with points. Malaire had 6 points entering tonight. Those totals now balloon forward.
Yeah, it was a good showing. I'm glad that we could all be here tonight. James had a strong qualifier. He got a little bit antsy, I think, there on I think it was the second lap in turn 1. It's so easy to push wide there on cold tires. The whole track's super hard on cold tires. So I was trying to be as patient as possible, and unfortunately James pushed probably just 5 miles per hour too fast going into turn 1 and went off the track there.
Strong run, though, for you and your grouping here tonight. Though next, for the halfway point of the season, Spa. How are you going to handle the Spa day, or should I rather say, how do you prepare for Spa day on iRacing?
Spa is one of the few GP tracks I actually enjoy. So I'm gonna do my best to try and get on pace. There's so much drafting and going back and forth. It's really just kind of keep yourself in it until the last few laps, and stay in that top 3 and try to make something happen on the last lap on the backstretch. That's kind of my plan.
Well, congratulations once again on the victory tonight, Cody. It's your first this season, and you also got the fastest lap.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to you guys for doing all the broadcasting and everything, and Nox and James and everybody else. Take care.
Let's go to Grams. First time winner of this campaign, at least, for car 575. Lots of drivers eager to speak with us tonight, including the top driver from AM's side, as well as the third place pro driver. Why don't we talk to the top driver from AM tonight? Because, well, Andy, the M class was difficult to survive. John Quinn survived it from 37 to 10th.
Yeah, he certainly did. John joins us now in the commentary box. Congratulations on the win. Justin said it best. I think it was a battle of survival out there today.
Oh my goodness. The first 10 laps were just, every corner felt like there was someone else trying to rejoin. That was that was fun, but nerve-wracking at the beginning for sure to see how many cars were sitting on the side of the road when you go by.
And that, I guess, is one of the big challenges for the AM drivers, especially with the point system as it is. You've got to finish as high up the overall order now as you can. But to do that, you've got to sort of dodge and duck and dive and weave around some other cars, perhaps pro drivers, who are having dramas of their own.
Yeah, it's seriously trying to remember who's in your class and who's not when cars are bearing down on you is a challenge. It was at Coda. I accidentally raced a pro and totally threw away a chance at a better position at AM. So I know at the end I was watching Kevin Sandiego come reeling me in, and I was like, well, that's a pro driver that's probably going to ship me for some points, and I wouldn't blame him one bit. So I, when you're the slower class, you just keep your head down and hope.
One driver who was in your class was Ray Courtney. You were catching Ray before the pit stops, and then Ray, we think, changed tyres, whether by mistake or not, we don't know. But were you confident that you could have got past him even if he didn't have that slow stop?
We were confident in catching him. My other two teammates, unfortunately, were out by that point, so they were doing a lot of watching for me, and we were confident in catching him. But passing here is just so difficult, especially when the tires got greasy. I don't know how I could have gone offline to really force a pass without risking taking us both out. And as far as I'm concerned, it's, you know, I know it sounds like the anti-racer thing, but I'd rather finish a race in second than not finish at all. So if it had come to it, there'd be shots, but you know, I don't know if there was enough room at Brands Hatch to properly pass without just risking shipping somebody. And I just, you know, we'd find out if we'd gotten there, but I wouldn't have wanted to do it.
Well, it all worked out for you anyway. You've taken the class win. We think there's a good chance that puts you in the points lead as well within AM. So a good day all round for John Quinn.
I'll take it. Thank you guys. Thank you for the coverage. Thank you for everything. It's so fun racing here. These guys are so good to race with. I can't say how much fun this is.
Well, we had fun watching you as well. John Quinn, then your AM class winner. And Justin, I'm sure you'll agree, a well-deserving one.
Yes, indeed. And also now jumping and joining us now with one of his best runs of the season, Max Preston entered tonight second in the point standings. And well, a podium finish in turn 2 for Max Preston. How would you describe the night tonight to close into the fight for the championship?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, guys, thank you so much, by the way. And, happy to be in the broadcast booth for the first time this season. So, this race was really a race of attrition. I knew coming into this race, I didn't have a lot of laps here at Brands Hatch. And I know that I'm racing against some top talent out there, namely Coffrey, as well as Cody and the other Evolve guys. So for me, I knew I wanted to qualify well. I knew I figured out what the driving style was for Brands Hatch, the way it worked kind of perfectly. I played around with a few things in practice. So I achieved the goal of qualifying in the top 5, and I knew I just had to try and make it, as far ahead as I can go, right? Because I didn't technically have the speed as far as I was aware to challenge for the lead of this race, but I knew, especially in the second half of that race, that if Ozzy Milwane caught me, that it was going to be a hard fought battle. And with Brands Hatch being such a turny track and such a blind corner escapade out there, it was going to be a tough battle, especially a guy like Ozzy, who I've been racing for years. So I'm really happy with this result, carrying it into the rest of the championship, hopefully keep carrying this momentum up, because, we're in a good spot right now and trying to look long term to make sure we have a good finish.
I was about to say, based on Sebastian Coffrey's troubles with the drop now being a factor potentially for him, there is a chance you're the points leader. Was that something you expected to be this season? I know Waring, for example, is the defending champion from your group.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasant surprise for sure. But if there's one thing in racing, it's full of pleasant surprises, and it can end just as quickly as it begins. So for me, I'm going to try and look at this race by race. We're going to try and keep doing what we can to make sure that I can keep Evolve at the top of the championship standings. And, whether that's myself at the halfway point in the season or whether that becomes, team boss Andrew Waring, we'll see. But all of us Evolve guys, we've raced against each other for years. These are some of my closest friends growing up. So we're just as competitive with one another as we are with the other drivers out there on the racetrack. So there's a lot of inter-team racing going on, but we're making sure to focus to keep building as a team as well. So no suicide out there, but I know that the rest of the Evolve guys are going to be hunting me down. So I got to keep looking forward and keep looking long term with the rest of the championship.
Well, at the very least, in the short term, the next track is Spa. I know you said thinking long term there, but Spa, your opinions on that track for next round?
Yeah, Spa is actually one of my more favorite tracks. I have a lot of time there in various different cars. I've done a lot of testing there as well with several different setups and everything. So I'd have to say that as far as the circuits that we have on the calendar this year, Spa, I think, is going to be one of the strongest ones for me. So this is a really great way to, end Brands Hatch and carry into the next race at Spa. So I'm really excited for the next week to see what we can do.
Well, congratulations on the podium tonight. Congratulations on the run again, Max.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, I just want to thank the rest of the Evolve team and all the fans watching, and you guys have done a great job as well as the broadcast. This is a really exciting championship, and I can't wait for the next one.
Again, that's Max Preston on the podium tonight. He finished third overall this evening. And an eventful night to say the very least. I believe we have one more driver standing by. Get the chance to talk with Robert Ridgway. We haven't chatted with Robert Ridgway in a long while. A top 10 for Robert Ridgway. He's with Andy to close things out on the interview side.
Yeah, Robert, thanks for waiting around to have a chat with us. A solid top 10 finish there today, and, well, given some of the things that were going on out there, I'd take that as a bit of a victory myself.
Oh, it was a game of attrition today, fellas. It was a fun one. I mean, I think lap one, at the end of lap one, I think it was Tavitas. He rear-ends me at the inside, so I got to slow down a little extra. But he kind of touches me, and then I think it was like lap 3, I'm battling with Dubé. I get by him, and then lap 4, I did a full Verstappen spin back forward, and then basically anything I gained in the first 4 laps, I had lost.
But that honestly was the way that a lot of people's races went today. It's a really challenging track, Brands Hatch. I'm a little bit biased because it's one of my more local tracks as a Brit, but is it a kind of track that you enjoy racing at where you really can't afford to make a mistake because it will punish you?
Yeah, this test, or this test, you already know what I'm saying. This track is the final exam for like a hard class. Like, it's like, all right, we got to really, and your grade's already low. So like, this is the first time I raced it. I hadn't raced it before. And at first I was like, I don't know. But it's a little bit like Alton Park. It grows on you in a nice special way where you can really flow. You can be Bruce Lee like water out there.
Well, I'll always take some love for Alton Park. That's where it all started for me about 10 years ago. So a great place. We are blessed with some good tracks in the UK. We're blessed with some good tracks on the rest of the calendar as well, Robert. Any particular ones you're looking forward to? And what are your thoughts sort of moving forward through the rest of the season?
Honestly, I don't even know the rest of the calendar. I'm very present. I might be Buddhist with my track schedule. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to all of them. Only ones I don't like are the ones where I crash. So as long as I survive and do well, man, it's a good time.
You cannot argue with that logic, can you? Robert, thanks for joining us and rounding out our interviews in style. We'll hear from you again, I'm sure, next week.
All right, appreciate it. Y'all do a great job. Thank you.
Robert Ridgway then. I think he enjoyed himself here tonight, Justin. So did I. That was a dramatic night of racing. Threw up a few twists and turns and surprises along the way. Really, about everything we expected.
It was a fun one to say the very least for these drivers tonight, and as talked about with their competitors for the next round of this series, it's off to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for a chance for a spa day from the classic pit lane. 19 laps, 45 minutes, whatever comes first on January the 26th. The start time for that series approximately 9:30 p.m. Eastern here on RaceSpot and VCO. But on that note, we'd like to thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's action for both the IRL 4 Series and for the Formula 3 Series powered by VCO for the Precision Racing League. For my co-announcer tonight, Annie McEwen, for our producer, Hugo Wees, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the PRL on RaceSpot and VCO. Good night.